That's crazy to me, right? And it's easy to dismiss veganism, but look at the consequences. They're stark.
What's happening, my guy?
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Trans woman or woman? I wanna just ask you the age-old question. What is a woman?
It's a gender identity that aligns with female typical traits.
Well, that's circular. What can you define the word woman?
I just did.
No, you didn't. You give me a circular answer. I need a definition.
Let's listen. Woman is a gender identity.
No, that's circular.
Hold on.
But that's circular answer. You have to define
Hold
it.
on, sir. Let's listen to the full definition.
No, but you're not defining it. I won't listen to a non-definition. I asked you the question. I asked you to define it. You're giving me a circular answer. Define what a woman is.
A gender identity that aligns with female typical traits.
Yeah, but that's a circular answer. That's not actually defining what a woman is it? What is a woman?
Circular.
No, it is circular because you haven't given me a definition on what a woman is.
I just did. It's a
No, you didn't. You
gender
called
identity,
it
it's a
gender.
gender
No,
identity that aligns with female typical traits.
no, that's not. That's a circular answer.
Can
That's
you point out the circularity?
No, but you won't give me a definition, which is what I'm asking you for. How do you define what a woman is?
It's a gender identity that aligns with female
No,
typical
but that's
traits.
circular. That's not a definition. Again, I'm going to keep challenging until you give me an actual definition. Because if you're giving a circular answer, I'm not gonna. Well, a circular answer is different from a definition, right? Do you know the difference in words?
Yeah, so a woman is a gender identity that aligns.
That's not a gender identity. That's a circular definition. I want you to just actually define what a woman is.
So instead of saying
no, but it's not. No, but you're giving me a circular answer. You don't seem to understand the difference between the two words. I'm asking you for a definition.
It's a gender identity that aligns with female.
That's circular. That's not a definition. That's
so where's the circularity?
Well, the circularity is the fact that you can't actually define what a woman is.
That's not circularity. What does circularity mean?
It is because you're not actually being definitive with your answer, which means you're being circular. Okay.
What does circularity mean?
Because you're not. Because what you're doing right now is circular because you won't give me a definition.
Well, I gave you a definition.
No, you didn't. You give me a circular answer. I'm asking you to define what.
I'm asking you, where's the circularity?
No, I'm actually asking you to define the word. Just the word, nothing else.
Look, I know you go on to other lives. Look, I know you go on to other lives, and that's all they say. It's circular. It's circular.
No,
but you have yet to show me where the circularity is, and then you have yet to show me why my definition is not to be used. So can you do that? Can you do those things?
I've been trying to tell you how to do that. Is the fact that you won't give me a definitive. Right. Well, there's a difference between a definition and circular.
So
I'm asking. No, but you're not listening to the language, right? The language is. I am asking you how to define what a woman is, and you're giving me a circular answer, which means that I'm correct and you're fucking wrong, and you can mute me all you want. But all I'm asking you to do is give me an actual definition to what a woman is.
It's a gender identity that aligns with female typical.
Again, that's a circular answer.
So where's the circularity?
Well, because you're not defining what I'm asking you.
That's not what circularity means.
Yes, it is. It means that you're not given a definition. It means you're being circular about the definition. Yes, you can say all you want. I've given you clarity.
So circularity means that you're using the same word to define the word you're defining.
Exactly. You're being disingenuous.
Where did I use the word twice?
No, you actually give me a definition, not a circular answer.
Where did I use the word twice?
Because you're misinterpreting exactly what you're saying.
Where did I use the word twice in my definition, though?
But that's not actually about using the word twice, is it? Because that's not completely what it means.
Okay, so
Read out.
then where's the
No, no, no,
circularity?
don't play to your minions in the comments. Read out the exact meaning, my friend.
Yeah, so where's the
Yeah,
circularity in my
exactly.
definition?
So shut up. So I'm asking you to give me an actual definition and stop being circular.
So the definition under current gender theory.
Oh, under current gender theory, right? So there's no actual definition. It's just under what you can
I'm
tell
about
me
to
is
give
a
it to you.
feminist
So
university
again,
study. Right, okay.
so the
So you're being
definition is a
circular.
woman is a gender identity that aligns with female
Yeah,
typical
so you
traits.
can't answer. That's all you have to say, my friend. Thank you very much. You're an idiot.
Look, the guest, his sentiment is very typical and understandable. People are very mad. They want to be very contrarian when it comes to trans, veganism, atheism. People want to be very contrarian and just whatever they have to say to say you're wrong. But they're not listening. If only he had listened to what I told him. There was no circularity. A woman is a gender identity that aligns with female typical traits. That's all that means. And that's why trans women are women, because they align with that gender identity. And gender identity has to do with your neurobiological patterns, which all of us have in our brains, which gives rise to our genders. I'm not a man because I have a peepee. I'm a man because I have a particular brain phenotype. And that's what gender comes from.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Hey, how are
Hello?
you? Yeah,
Hi, yeah, I'm good. How are you?
good.
Okay, I would like to debate trans women or women. I agree with essentially everything else that's up for debate, so yeah, I just like out of curiosity, like what's your definition of a woman?
It's a gender identity that aligns with female typical traits.
Right, okay. Can men be feminine? Can men align with female typical traits?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so then
What's
you
your point?
can't. Well, I mean, like, if you're saying that like, if you're defining a woman by something that men can be, how do you differentiate between a man and a woman?
Because words are inherently fuzzy.
What do you mean
So,
by
for
fuzzy?
example, do you think there is a differentiation between a truck and a car?
Yeah, to some extent, but they do the same
Okay,
thing.
so let me give you this example. You think that
I
there's
wouldn't
a
say that
truck
means
and a
the same
car.
definition, though.
Hold on. So you believe that trucks are distinct from cars.
Yeah, in some way, yeah.
What is the primary distinction between those two things?
I mean, I would say typically, like, a truck would be used to carry, like, heavy goods, whereas a
Oh,
car is
oh, but
typically
a
to...
car can do that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, but...
Oh, okay. So
Um,
does that mean you can no longer
well, no, 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 no,
differentiate these
no.
two
I mean, like,
words?
I guess, like, I would argue, though, that, like, a truck could, like, potentially carry something that's the weight of a car, you know what I mean? And a car, like, obviously couldn't
Right.
unless it was attached.
There are cars that can do that.
Yeah, but I don't understand how this is relevant.
It's relevant because your criticism of my point was that I can't differentiate between what a woman is and what a man is. But
Right.
that's not how we use words in linguistics. See, there's something called prototype theory, in which there are no key factors that distinguish things perfectly. There are only degrees of belonging to categories. And that's why when you're asking, oh, how do you differentiate a woman between a man? That question is missing the nuance in linguistics.
No, no,
Because
I mean, I
how we
hear what you're
differentiate
saying.
between a man and a woman is based on standout traits.
Yeah,
We,
yeah,
we
yeah, no, I
distinguish
understand
them
what you're
based
saying.
on
Okay.
typical traits. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why I used the definition I did.
yeah, okay. I mean, like, I do see where you're coming from for sure, but at the same time, I mean, like, do you believe that there is, like, an inherent difference between, like, a man and a woman? Like, physically,
There are
like,
distinctions that we can
yeah,
make.
yeah, right.
There
So
are
how can
clear
you,
distinctions that we can make.
yeah, yeah. So how can you, like, how can you claim that a woman is something that a man is able to fit into that category? I don't understand that.
Again, because
I mean, like
how
you
we
can say like the truth
categorize
in
things.
the Lori thing.
Hold on, Rosella. Let me explain.
Okay.
How we categorize things is not based on one feature that makes it that excludes the other thing. That almost never happens in language. That's almost never the case. Like in the case of a truck or a car, there is no key feature about a car that a truck can't have. It doesn't exist.
Yeah,
In the
yeah,
same sense, there's no trait that a woman has that a man can't have. But we still can make distinctions based on standout traits, based on typical traits. And that's how we can still categorize things. Now, the
right. But
reason why this is important is because when you suggest that a woman is merely reduced to their genitalia,
I never said that.
your ability to, I know, I'm just suggesting this is where you might be going.
Like
If you're
I never said
reducing
that.
what a woman is to their ability to produce gametes, large gametes, well, what you've
Sorry,
done
can you
there
repeat
is
that? I didn't hear
you
you.
have completely dismissed all the psychological and neurobiological nuance behind gender. Gender is not black and white. It's very much a spectrum, and that's
How do
why
you
we
know
have to
that?
update our definitions.
How do you know the gender is a spectrum?
Well, there's a scientific basis for this in the
Uh
case
huh.
that we
And what's the
discovered.
scientific basis for it? Like what study like calculated this? High quality, preferably, but
Yeah, so studies find that there are brain phenotypes in people, and
can you
this,
cite me the study so I can read it myself?
sure, no problem.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna load up my computer now.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
It's called Neurobiological Characteristics Associated with Gender Identity. Findings from neuroimaging studies in the Amsterdam cohort of children and adolescents experiencing gender incongruence. And what the study finds is that we looked at people's brains, transgender brains, cisgender brains, and we're finding that there is a brain phenotype to people, which then gives rise to their gender. So
Mm-hmm.
people that are transgender are born that way because they have a particular phenotype. And the same thing applies to me or you. We are born with the brains we have, hence we are born with the genders we have, and that's why people that are trans are born transgender.
Wait, is this study conducted by Science Direct? Am I on the right page?
That's well, that's not conducted. That's not the conductor of the
Oh
site,
yeah, sorry. Is it like cited
but
by?
that's the study. Yeah, that's probably the study.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. I'm gonna read through the study, right, and I'll get back to you if I find anything else that I want to discuss. But
There are
yeah.
many,
Thanks for
many more
this one.
studies than this one. There are many, many more studies.
Well, can you give me another one as well? Because I don't just want to read one study and critique it. If,
Sure,
yeah.
there's one called Sex versus Gender Associations with Brain Structure, and it found that furthermore that gender was correlated to brain sex.
Sorry, I'm just so. Okay, and that was Science Direct as well. Yeah, just so I have the right one.
Yeah,
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. I'll check these out, and I'll if there's anything else that I want to discuss, I'll request again. But yeah, thank you very much for the discussion.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye. By the way, this is not Saratoga water. This is my tap water. I have filtered into that. Hello?
Mike, how's it going, bud?
Great. How are you?
I'm not going to go on the God is imaginary. That's just a lost cause. I've done that a million times. You should be a vegan. I've tried that a million times. It's a lost cause. But trans women are not women, my boy. We got it. I'm not even going to ask you for the definition because I know you're right. Everybody goes circular and all that shit. But a woman is an adult female. We're not saying girl. We're saying woman, right?
Okay.
So would you say your mom is a woman?
Yeah. Look,
Correct. Because she's not a little girl.
let me explain. The reason why we don't define woman as an adult human female is because number one, it's still not particularly clear what we mean by female. Is it the production of large gametes? Is it their ability to produce children? What is a female? And there's a spectrum of sexes. But furthermore, more powerful, when you define a woman as an adult human female, you're missing out on tons of neurobiology that has illuminated much about gender and the gender and sex distinction. And we're finding that gender comes from the brain. There are subtle brain differences in people that give rise to brain phenotypes, which then give rise to genders. People that are transgender are born that way. So to better encapsulate all the facts about the science behind gender, we have to update our definitions. And defining a woman as a gender identity that aligns with female typical traits far better captures that nuance. So, does that make sense? You're free to unmute. It's the microphone button.
I got it. I didn't know you muted me. Shit. Anyway, I think that didn't make no sense at all, actually. No, because women they can bear children, they have periods, they have a uterus. Men do not. And all the difference is when a woman gets the transition into a trans woman, a woman gets trans into a trans woman, they get their penis and just invert it. That's not a vagina.
So, first of all, this does not address anything I told you. You didn't address the
Yeah, but am I wrong? Am I wrong, though, Mike? Am I wrong?
It's irrelevant whether you're right or wrong because it doesn't address the concern.
So that's okay with you, though.
So using your definition misses out on tons of utility that we would have otherwise had if we just used my definition. And this is why the current gender theory definition is that. And we don't use your outdated version of what a woman is. And you haven't addressed this. You're just saying, no, a woman is this. But you're not really addressing why we're using these terms. There is no objective definition of what a woman is, by the way. It doesn't exist. So to argue that is a hard task.
Yeah. Okay, Mike. You keep thinking that, buddy, I guess. But
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Great.
I have a disagreement with the third statement. Trans women are women. Can you elaborate on your stance real quick?
A woman is just a gender identity that aligns with female typical traits.
Okay. You do realize that most people don't have a problem with that statement in itself. They have a problem with the overarching issue of trans women being in women's bathrooms and women's sports. That's where the issue really comes from. So, and they've always existed. This is not like a new issue. So nobody really cares about nobody's denying their existence.
There's lots of resistance right now against people that are trans, and I think a lot of the way to reduce and diminish that resistance is to teach people what gender really means. Gender comes from the brain, and it's a neurobiological phenomenon. And if people just better understood that, they wouldn't be so hateful. They wouldn't be so quick to hate people who don't understand them, people who they don't understand. So
the issue still stands of these are biological males that are in women's sports. It doesn't matter if they're transgender.
You mean that they have genitalia or
call it what you want. That's not the issue.
Their sex is male or female, right? That's what you mean to say. But gender is also biological. gender is still biological. Being trans is still something you biologically have.
But you just said
Yes.
that gender comes from the brain. It's not
Yes.
physical, right?
The brain is
So
a
great.
biological. The brain's biological, and that's why being trans is biological.
Great, yeah. So they can be biological, but they can. So because their gender is, let's say, their gender is female, right? Let's say this is somebody who was born a male. Their gender is female, but their body is still male. Why is their body competing in women's sports? Because that's kind of unfair, right?
This is a separate question, and I agree that there's. I don't care about sports. I could care less if you play in a sport. But as far as this topic is concerned, um, I don't think that. I think we should understand that being trans is biological. It's just neurobiological.
Right,
It's
but
distinct from your genitalia or your ability
Mr.
to
Mr. Brigandi, the issue is not coming from the fact that people are denying this. The issue is coming from the fact that
I think it's both. I think people are exploiting the fact that that transgender people are vastly misunderstood, and they're using that to hate others. And then on top of that, they're using the sports thing to further advance their hatred and further advance their political
so,
hatred.
but do you kind of concede that point that they shouldn't be in women's sports because that's literally unfair?
I don't concede that. I don't see a problem with that happening.
You don't see a problem with that?
I don't see a problem in high school or in elementary school or middle school sports at all.
So if a 15-year-old boy can just wipe out a bunch of girls' dreams just because they decided to switch.
It's not wiping out dreams, sir. I'm sorry, but nobody takes middle school sports seriously.
I mean, this translates to professional sports too. I mean, if I were to switch,
That could be a bit different, and sure, but look, I don't care about the sports thing.
Okay, so fair enough. You don't care about sports, but how about the bathroom thing? Have you heard about the Loudoun County case where a 16-year-old boy raped a girl in the bathroom, pretending to be?
How did trans people enable this? They didn't. They were just existing, and what you described, although it's bad, could have always happened.
But it's the allowance of them in the bathroom, in the women's bathroom. That's what caused it.
They were always allowed to.
This acceptance will just create more.
And always will be allowed to be in the bathroom. There's nothing about being trans that enables this kind of behavior. So you're fighting the wrong battle. You're attacking the wrong people.
Somebody brought up another good point. He said, talk about the kids. The kids should not be learning about this because they're so moldable at a young age.
Kids should not be. Kids should absolutely be learning about what it means to be transgender. Kids
really
should absolutely be understanding this, because if they don't understand it, it leads to the current situation where people just hate and are ignorant about the matter. That's why children should be taught about gender and sex and sexuality. It's very important for our understanding of each other. We live together, sir, and people that are trans are always going to be here. People that are gay or lesbian, they're always going to exist. And
so what would you teach children?
Just to dismiss them.
What would you teach?
Say, oh, let's not teach about that. That's a recipe for disaster.
Right, but what would you teach children in schools, young children like 6, 7 years old? What would you tell them about transgender stuff? And what it translates
not 6 or 7, but when I learned about it, I was about 9 or 10. I think that's a great age to start teaching children about sex.
Right. What would you teach them about? I'm not talking about sex.
Teach them what being trans means. Teach them about what gender means. People
explain
don't
it. Well, hey, kiddo, let me tell you what trans means. So there's these, explain it. Go ahead. I'm curious. I'm curious what you tell a 10-year-old child about transgender.
Yes, we would teach kids about genders, about what a man, what a woman mean, what transgender means. We'd teach them that it's a part of the brain. It's a part of it's a scientific process.
And what would be the purpose of teaching them?
We would teach them about that, and we would not just say, they don't exist. Just don't look at that. That's absurd.
And what would you teach them about these topics?
We would teach them that it's perfectly biological. It's just part of being human to be trans. It's part of being
for what purpose?
It's part of being human to be lesbian or gay or bisexual. Period. Like, it's that simple.
For what purpose? I mean, I don't drag my son over here and tell him that, hey, son, there's this thing called a threesome. It's like, why are you telling them about
That's a caricature. That's a
You
caricature.
teach them.
No. Stop. See, this is what you're doing. You're saying, oh, we teach about gender. What else is it going to lead to? It's a slippery slope. Well, the problem is no. Of course, there are restrictions on what we should be teaching them at a very young age. But what we should not be doing is restricting the mere existence of gender. That's something that everybody should understand. Teaching about sexual positions, that's not something we typically teach kids because, that could lead to weird things. But teaching about gender is something vastly different. And you're kind of equivocating and you're suggesting that there's something icky about
But
being.
there has to be a purpose in teaching.
That's the problem. You just don't understand what transgender means. Do you know what being transgender means?
Do I know what being transgender means? No, explain it.
Exactly. You don't know what you're critiquing. And
somebody feels that they're not in the correct body.
That's precisely the problem here. That's precisely the problem. We don't understand them. And then we make up these things like, oh, it's icky to believe that. Oh, it's crazy. That's the problem. You don't understand it. And that's why we ought to understand it. And that would help us understand each other better.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Great.
All right. My stance on this is simply that trans women are women. Sorry, apologies. Trans women are women disguised as men. Oh, sorry. Flip it. Trans women are men disguised as women. There you go.
Okay, what does a trans woman mean?
A lot of the nowadays.
What does being transgender mean?
What is transgender?
Yeah.
Transgender. It means somebody was first a man or a woman changed their gender basically.
No, that's not what it means.
That's what
You
it
don't
means.
change your gender. If you're transgender, it doesn't mean you're changing your gender. It means that society tells you you're something. They tell you that you're a man, but then you grow up and you realize, no, I don't align with that gender identity. So you don't change your gender, you just align with a different one. And that's why, because people that are trans always were that way. It's not like they, subtly changed. It's just that society tells them they're something that they're not. And that's it. And again, people that are trans are born that way. They have, just like me and you are born with the gender we have, they are born with the gender they have. It's just that for them, there's an incongruence between their brain sex and their body sex.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So you are pro any type of identification. So if somebody decides to identify as a, let's say, an animal, a dog or something, you're gonna be like, okay, you know what? Let's be accepting of this.
No, that's completely disanalogous. Because again, when we're talking about gender, we're talking about a neurobiological thing that has to do with the human psyche. It has nothing to do with species. It has nothing to do with your species or your race or this. It has to do with your neurobiology. And so, that's why suggesting, oh, well, can I identify as a cat? That doesn't make any sense because gender isn't species. It has to do with your brain.
Do you think that it's a mental issue that people are getting confused?
Not a mental issue. It's not confusion. It's only society that's confused about them.
Really?
Trans people are not confused. What's happening is that society consistently tells them that they're a man, you're a man, when in reality, their neurobiology says, no, I'm a woman. And that's why they're trans. It's not because there's something wrong with them.
So your claim is that neurobiology is 100% always accurate, that there's no type of issue or There's
There is no
that
evidence of
in
an
most cases.
issue or a no. There's no evidence of an issue with trans people's brains inherently.
You don't think that there could be some type of error or problem in
What
people's
error?
brains that are making
What's
them
the
think that
error?
there's
There's
something that they're
nothing
not.
about their brain that's an error in regards to their gender.
All right, so transgender.
Literally, imagine taking my brain and putting it into a female body. It's almost directly analogous to that. There's nothing wrong with my brain. If I put it into a female body, there's still nothing wrong with my brain.
All right, so but you're talking about something that's completely different there. So you're saying that basically people are born a certain way, and then they decide later on or at a certain point in time that, you know what, I'm actually not this way. I'm not this. I'm this. And you think that that's valid?
It's not that they change again, sir. People that are trans always understood that they didn't fit in with the gender that people told them they were. They always understood that. It's not like they're just waking up one day and going, "Oh, I'm a woman today," and they're changing. No, it's not just a feeling, like a feeling that you have a basic feeling like that. It's something about their neurobiology. It's the wiring of the brain that tells them that their gender is the gender they are. It's not something that you could just change on a whim. So again, you're not quite understanding what transgender people are.
Okay, so you're okay. Now I'm understanding a little bit here. So you're making a claim that there are certain people in this world that just simply were, I guess you could say, born a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and they claim to be a certain way, and although it doesn't align with the norms of society, it's just how they feel they are, I guess.
Just
And
like you feel you're a man, right?
well, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, you gotta define that. That's the
just like
thing.
I have this innate feeling that I'm a man. It's not just like a whim feeling. It's something very deep. It's a deep internal self perception about who I am, and that's the same with transgender people. They have that deep internal perception of who they are, and it's that society is telling them that there's something, but they don't align with that. Hence, transgender.
All right. So my question for you is, how would you at that point is we would have to define or figure out what a man is, what a woman is, what I guess they're in a different type of category because you're calling them a transgender person, a transgender woman, transgender man. But oh well, then you're not really making the claim that they're a man or a woman. You're calling them transgender women. So I
Well,
suppose,
trans women are women because
yeah.
what a woman is simply a gender identity that aligns with female typical traits. And trans women fit that definition. And that's why trans women are women.
So you're saying that somebody who can't give birth or someone who doesn't have a vagina can be considered technically a woman regardless of not having those
Correct.
parts.
Correct. Because gender is distinct from sex. They're two different things.
Trying to understand how that makes any sense.
Because gender is neurobiological. Again, studies are showing that there are brain phenotypes. There are types of brains that are connected to your gender identity. We have studied transgender brains and cisgender brains, and we find that there's a correlation between trans women brains and cisgender woman brains. We find that their hypothalamus structures and cell sizes are very correlated. So we are finding that there's brain phenotypes to people. And people that are transgender, they fit a certain phenotype and the same as me or you. But they fit within the woman category because they think and have the wiring of a woman, a typical woman.
You know what? This is like an interesting take. I've actually never heard this before. So
It's scientifically backed. It's backed by the evidence. I have studies upon studies showing that there are brain phenotypes and brain sexes.
all right, well, all right, well, well, I don't, I agree with you. So I guess at this point, there's no reason to hate anybody anyway. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
all right, I hear your point. So, It's fine. Understand that. All right. If anyone else wants to jump on, come on. I appreciate you kind of sharing a different opinion, a different take on the subject.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
What's up, Mike?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Long time no see. I'm sure you already know my view on this. I know in the vegan community, my opinion is strewn like wildfire up in this bitch. This is the question I would ask for those that say that trans women, or excuse me, are women. What's a lesbian?
Lesbian has to do with your sexuality.
Right. So if
Bit
I,
different
a
than
homosexual
gender.
woman, right. So I, a homosexual woman, someone who's same-sex attracted, if I got with a trans woman, would I still be a homosexual woman at that point?
Yes, because being
How though, if they're
transgender,
different
being a
sexes,
trans
babe?
woman,
So
being
do you believe
trans,
sex and gender are the same or different?
no, they're different.
Okay, so if you believe sex and gender is different, you understand sexuality is exclusively same-sex attraction, then you would then understand that
That's
homosexuals only
the
exclusively.
traditional understanding of sex was, male or female.
Mhm.
But when we're talking about, people that are lesbian, they have same-sex
Yeah.
attraction. We have to better understand and encapsulate what that means by incorporating transgender people.
Well, I don't want to
And transgender
incorporate. I don't want
people,
to incorporate male bodies. See, I'm a homosexual woman. What makes me same-sex attracted is that I'm attracted to those that have the same genitals that I do. It is exclusively means that
I
I am
understand
attracted.
that. Okay.
Right. But because if a male gets some breasts, that doesn't make
You're
them
still lesbian. I understand that.
right. But if I'm with a male and I'm engaging sexually and I'm enjoying it, I would have to then come to terms with the fact that I would no longer be a homosexual
No,
any longer.
because again, that's
A male and a
keeping.
female aren't homosexual, Mike.
Hold on. That's keeping your traditional definition of what it means to be lesbian.
So
Right?
what other thing is so males are now lesbians?
Look. There's an entire study about gender, right? Gender studies.
Okay, but gender study doesn't change. We already
Hold on.
said.
Let me explain.
Good.
Let me explain. There's an entire field of study that has to do with understanding gender. And when we talk about lesbians, we have to, in order for them to fit within this new domain of understanding about gender, you have to recognize that people that are trans women are still women.
Okay, but okay,
They
explain to me how. So
represent
would
like
I
a
be
female.
still homosexual then if Mike, you're not allowing me to speak. All right, go ahead.
Because they fit within the woman category, you would still be a lesbian if you were with a trans woman. Because
How would I
they're
still be a
still
lesbian
women.
if they're a
They're
male?
still women.
But a female
We're
is a
not-
female.
We're
Mike,
not talking about
lesbian is
we no
female who's
longer have to-
exclusive. Mike,
We no longer
Mike.
have to talk about sex that way. We now have to understand that
You said yourself, Mike,
has
you
to do
said
with
yourself
gender.
that sex and gender are different, babe. You said sex and gender are different, therefore by definition,
yes,
right?
that's why we have
So
to
sex,
recognize-
homosexual, what the definition is one exclusively attracted to one own sex, not gender.
Yes.
It clears,
And
right, so which means,
there is no objective definition of sex or gender or anything. Words are just have usages, right? However, the problem with suggesting that lesbians only has to do with same-sex attraction in the sex definition you're using is the fact that you're discounting trans women. Trans women are women. Hence, if you can still be lesbian and can be considered lesbian and be attracted to a trans woman. You understand? It no longer has to do with. It doesn't have to do with sex. In the case that you think, right, it has to do with genitalia. It has to do with the neurobiology.
Mike, so you're arguing with a lesbian right now, telling me what a lesbian means.
Well, again, this is a highly debated topic.
Yeah, but a topic that doesn't make sense when it's put up against basic reality.
It makes perfect sense if you understand that trans
I'm
women
a homosexual
are
woman who's same-sex attracted. What is there more to understand? I like the same bits I have.
Again, it has to do with not just sex in terms of your genitalia. Right? That's why we have to.
No, it literally means genitalia. That's literally what I'm attracted to. That's what makes me a lesbian.
If that's what you want to think it is, then fine. But that's
what
not
do you
the
mean? Not the
objective
gaslighting.
definition. There is.
What do you mean? What else is lesbian? If it doesn't mean that I'm attracted to my own bits, what does it mean?
It could be the same gender attraction.
But it's not. That's not what
But
lesbian is. It
but it
literally is
could
the
be.
same
But
sex
it could be,
attraction.
and that definition would way better encapsulate trans
But it
women.
doesn't encapsulate males. Why would we fight for same-sex marriage if anybody can be same-sex now? What's the point?
Again, we have to update our definitions based on new data. And you're
What do you
not
mean,
doing
new
that.
data
And
of
you're
what?
doing-
So people that want to
Because
act like
they-
lesbians but don't
Well,
understand the
no,
lesbian
because-
experience?
Because we're discovering that people that are trans women are indeed women.
Okay, but again, no, a trans woman is a trans woman, sweetheart. A trans woman is a trans woman. A woman is a woman. I mean, it's basic. It's basic
Exactly.
knowledge.
So when you recognize that they're actually women,
How
then
are they
you have to
actually women? They've been diagnosed with gender dysphoria and incongruence of the mind and body, which is a debilitating mental health disorder. And they take
It's
the
not a
medical steps.
debilitating
Excuse me,
it's
they
not a
literally take. Excuse me,
debilitating
I'll
disorder.
bury you on this, Mike. You want to bring up the studies? Let's bring up the studies. Because again, it's gender dysphoria, and it is the medical incongruence
No.
between the mind.
Look. Most people that are trans don't have gender dysphoria. That's number one. Okay. Number two, it has nothing to do with that's debilitating. It's not debilitating at all. Number three, people that are trans women are women because they fit in that category.
They're not. If I am sucking an eggplant, let's be real here. I'm not a lesbian.
Hold on. Again, you're
Especially if I like it.
with defining gender. The problem with defining a woman as female, adult human is that you're dismissing all of that nuance in psychology, in the science that demonstrates that trans women are indeed.
Why
women.
are you hell bent on erasing what it means to be a homosexual?
We're not erasing anything.
You are. You're erasing
Not erasing
homosexuals.
anything. We're not
By
erasing
adding
anything.
males to homosexual lesbian, you're erasing what it means to be a female lesbian. We fought for those rights.
Nobody's
Not for males to
erasing
come in
you.
and take over.
Nobody's erasing you. What we're doing.
Well,
in
you
fact,
are
you're-
by
in fact,
denying what a homosexual.
If anybody's erasing somebody, it's you erasing trans women. Because you're
Explain to me
saying,
how when you're forcing them in my.
because what you're saying is that they don't exist.
But you want.
And if I'm attracted to them,
Why are
that
you
means I can't be lesbian, right? That doesn't make any sense. We have to incorporate them
Why do you
because
keep-
they exist.
You're muting me, Michael.
To fit the new data, we have to understand that they are women. It's that simple. And if you don't want to understand that, fine. Like you can sit here and say, no, you're wrong, but you're not understanding that there's way more nuance to this issue than just, it's only.
Why do you? Again, what is a lesbian? Mike, what's a lesbian? Give me the definition of what a homosexual woman is.
Somebody attracted to female typical sex traits.
Okay, not traits, it's genitals. Same sex
See,
attraction is homosexual.
That's your problem, right? You're not recognizing that.
Well, you're the one that's being homophobic, Michael, telling me I have to be okay with men.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No one's gonna tell me that I'm homophobic. I'm sorry. Lesbian means attracted to female sex typical traits. That fits in with what a woman is. That's why trans women fit within that category. And it's not my fault that you don't want to update and learn new information about the world around you, such that trans women do fit your category of same-sex attraction. I'm sorry, if you don't want to accept that, that's fine, but I am going to accept the new knowledge and new understanding of people around me. See, it's that simple. I'm not here to be the mean guy or the bad guy. I'm just showing you that there are reasons why we have to change our definitions to fit new data.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you? I was hoping to discuss trans women being women real quick. But first I was hoping to ask you a question. Would you say that you're like a feminist?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so when you say you're a feminist, like what do you kind of mean by that?
I think that women should have rights and they should be more accepted in our society.
Okay, do you perhaps think that like gender roles and gender norms have been used to oppress women historically?
Gender roles?
Yeah.
I think society has imposed gender roles onto women. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
desensitize them.
And do you think it could be the case, just like, we see that it's the case that people of color tend to be more disenfranchised now, that, women tend to like hold on to these gender norms as a result of patriarchal structures that have been imposed on them by men?
Sure.
Yeah, so when you define woman and you talk about it within a certain set of like social norms and things like that, um,
That's
what
not
you're
what
really
I never define woman that way. Do you know what I mean by woman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no. See, you assumed my definition. So
Well, I heard you
I thought
talking
that
about
maybe
male
you
and female
I thought you
brains
maybe
a
you
little bit ago.
understood what I meant by woman, right? So can you define what a woman is by my means?
Oh, by your means, I think that you said something about like a woman is just certain traits that are typically associated with females.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
So
never
what
said something
traits are
about
you
social
referring
norms.
to?
I never talked about social norms there. Okay.
Okay. What traits are you referring to then?
Female typical traits, right? It has to do with
That tells me
psychological.
nothing. Like,
Hold on. Let me answer. Has to do with psychological traits, idiosyncrasies, perhaps. It could do with behavioral traits. It can do with physical traits. It can do with social traits. All the above.
oh, okay, so it is kind of about social traits and behavioral traits, psychological traits. What psychological traits are like typically associated with females, do you think?
Psychological traits,
Yeah.
nurturing, things like that. Index to femininity.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So, do you think that that particular gender role has been imposed on women particularly?
I don't understand what you're
Hold
doing
on.
here. Right?
No.
Do you think that trans women are women, or do you think that trans women are men?
I mean, I don't define women by a sexist term, so I would probably say that they're men.
Okay. So what is a woman to you?
Yeah, a woman's just going to be an adult human female.
Really?
That's what I think, yeah.
So you're
I
thinking
mean,
it's adult human female, but you're going to dismiss the fact that there's scientific basis behind transgender people and behind the fact that they are women.
okay, yeah, what's the scientific basis?
I explained this to several people before, but here's a study called Neurobiological Characteristics Associated with Gender Identity, right? And the study found that there are brain phenotypes that have to do with your gender, right? And there's a spectrum of brain phenotypes, hence a spectrum of genders. That's why there are
Okay.
multiple genders that
Well-
align with all these different shapes I'm talking about that are produced by your neurobiology. So
Okay,
no, you're not going to speak right now. This is very important because by merely reducing woman to an adult human female, you miss out on all that psychological and neurobiological nuance that is important for making them fit within the world around us. You're dismissing trans women. You're dismissing an entire category of people by suggesting that they're not something that they are. And that's the problem. So
Yeah.
you're not going to flip this on me and tell me that I'm anti-feminist or something.
Hmm.
You're going to demonstrate that trans women are indeed men, or you're going to leave.
Well, I mean, I just don't think that getting into like how a patriarchal society describes
Yeah.
linguistics
Have a good
around.
day.
Just wanted to drop in to say that she doesn't represent lesbians. That was disgusting, and you ate her. On to the next.
Yeah, I don't want to be hateful to others. Look, guys, a lot of this has to do with people not understanding trans people. Look, we all were there at one point, okay? I don't want to be hateful. I'm trying to be as nice as I can about this. I am. But yeah, there could be lots of resistance and lots of fighting, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I was surprised to see this topic when it came up because I thought you made mostly space and science videos.
Yeah, these are all scientific views that incorporate science.
Interesting. I think it's more likely that taking this opposition and talking about these topics has become pretty lucrative. Are you donating 100% of these proceeds to trans activist rights and causes?
What proceeds? I don't get any
Proceeds from your life.
I don't get any proceeds from my life. Maybe a few bucks here and there. That's not enough to donate.
Why not?
You think $2 is going to make a difference?
See, I don't believe that you get $2 because I don't have any followers, and when I participate in a live, I get $2 or $3. I believe you're getting way more than that.
I'm not. So
All
do
right,
you
so
have
I
an
do have a
actual, do
I
you
do
have
have
an
a
actual
question for you.
argument, or do you have an actual argument?
Yeah, I do. If I support transgenderism, as in I will call someone whatever they want to be called, I will call them their pronouns. I'll call them any. I just none of that matters to me. Sure, whatever you want to be, that's fine. If you want to be a woman, I'll call you a woman, whatever. But my hard stance is that biological men should not compete in women's sports, and we should not
But
be
that
giving
is
any. Let me
nothing. That
finish,
is
please. Let me finish,
nothing.
please,
That is
Mike. Let me
nothing.
finish.
No, 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 no. This has nothing to do with the topic, right? Do you think that trans women are women? Yes or no, and why?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I said, wouldn't that be a really important distinction? Because if I said that I believed that trans women are women, then I would be okay with them competing in women's sports, competing in women's sports, which I'm absolutely
That
not. So,
doesn't follow, right? Just because we can say trans women are women doesn't mean that they must play in women sports. That doesn't
does it
follow.
mean that they should be able to?
No, it doesn't follow about anything about sports.
So you believe that they should not be able to?
It doesn't matter what I believe. This is not the
It,
debate topic. I don't have a
it's
opinion. I don't care about
Mike. This
sports.
is
I don't. I don't.
absolutely
I
the.
don't.
This is absolutely the.
No, I don't care about sports, right? So let's talk about this, right? Do you have an argument for this or no? Please unmute your microphone.
Why you keep muting me?
You keep going off that.
Trans women are not women because they have an unfair advantage when they compete in women's sports.
How does that
And
follow?
Mike,
How does that
and
follow that they're not women?
Mike, it follows 100%. You can't say it's not related.
No,
And number
no,
two,
no,
Mike,
no,
if you're saying,
no, stop. Sports has nothing to do with the fact that trans women are women, right?
like if you're saying that gender is a
Sports could not
spectrum,
exist. Hold on, sports could not exist, and they would still be women, right? So I want the argument as to why they cannot be women.
well, you made your own argument. You said that gender is a spectrum. And
Right.
therefore, a spectrum, by definition, would not be defined by two characteristics. It would not be man or woman. It would be a spectrum.
Right. There are
And
many
therefore,
different
Mike,
genders.
please, like, stop cutting me off, dude. Like, let people talk. If you want to have real debates, let me make my 30-second argument. I'll be quiet. You make your 30-second argument, and then we can go back and forth. That's what makes most sense, right? So let me make my argument, then I'll shut up, and then you can make your argument, and we'll do this until either one of us concedes or we agree to disagree. But if I say that if you say that it's a spectrum, and the spectrum therefore shall not be defined like a rainbow, shall not be defined by two things, it's defined by a varying degrees of different characteristics, then by definition, it makes more sense to call a biological woman a woman, a trans woman, and
Trans are
so on
not
and so forth.
biological women.
Because that's well, that's not a spectrum, Mike. So you're contradicting yourself.
Well, trans women fit within the spectrum, right? And
Mike, that's not a spectrum. Okay, so I'll be quiet for a minute. You go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, you're confused. There could be a spectrum of items, and then I fit within one of those things in the spectrum, right? I fit in one of those categories within the spectrum. Same applies to men and women. Same applies to gender. Trans women are women because they have a gender identity that aligns with female typical traits. That is what a woman means. Do you have a counter for that?
Mike, I just gave you the counter. Let me give you another counter, and I'll put it in your language. If I'm doing an observation on space and 99% of the things tell me that something's a dwarf star and 1%'s either unknown or tells me it's a red giant, what is that star?
I don't see how this is analogous.
Like, this is what you do when you don't have an argument. You just say that's not relevant or it's not analogous, or you try to use something.
How does this relate to the argument that trans
Because
women
if 99% of the traits of someone tells me that they are a woman or a man, then therefore they will be a woman or a
so
man.
there is no set number of traits that distinguishes a man between a woman. It doesn't exist. That's not how linguistics works. There's no set number. We come to those numbers subjectively within society.
But this isn't linguistics, it's science. And science does have that.
Well, it's both linguistics and science. These are both important for these kinds of discussions. Again, when we talk about words, like what's the difference between a car and a truck? There is no set number of traits about the truck that would distinguish it from a car.
Sure it is. A truck has a bed that you can put items in the back.
Well, so can cars
That's
have
open to
beds.
the air.
Well,
No,
so can cars have beds, like the El Camino.
that's one minute example. And this is you're proving
Okay.
my point.
So then,
You're
so
proving
then,
my
so
point. That's
So
one
then we
example.
go,
So we're there.
so then we go based on what's typical, right? And when it comes to trans women, they share the typical traits that a female would have, and that's why if you are a trans woman, you are a woman.
You literally just proved my point. There's tens of thousands of models of cars, and you went to the one car that has a bed
It's
and
not the
said that,
one
okay,
car. No, no, we're not saying they only share one feature out of a million. No, they share all the features that are typical of women.
so let me ask you this question. Should a trans woman have to disclose to a potential partner that they are a trans woman and
Irrelevant.
not a
That's
bi?
irrelevant to this discussion. So
It's
let's.
not irrelevant.
It's absolutely irrelevant. I'm
That would
asking you.
define, that would make them different.
That's irrelevant. If they want to disclose or not. I'm asking you, are trans women women? You're saying no, but you're not giving a reason.
I gave
What's the
a
reason?
bunch of reasons, and you've had zero arguments.
Well, you
And
have.
honestly, dude, you're getting cooked.
So what's the
Give me a
reason? What's
reason.
the reason why trans women are men?
The reason is because those characteristics that make them different. If they were exactly the same, we wouldn't even have to have a discussion about participating in sports or having to disclose prior to having a
That has
date.
nothing to
It's
do with.
Mike, it's
That
got
has nothing to
everything
do
to
with
do with it.
defining. Yeah. So that has nothing to do with trans women being women. That's sports. That's not even relevant, right? We're talking about how are trans women women, and I say they are because of it's a gender identity, and you're saying no because of sports. That makes no sense. That's a red herring.
No, it's not, Mike. It's not a red herring. It's the ability to
How is it
participate.
relevant? How is it relevant to the definition of what a woman is?
The ability of whether they could participate in either a contest or dating or other factors of life without having to make an extra like an extra move, and you know what I mean, like a disclosure or like a sub. That's a completely relevant.
How is it relevant?
It's relevant because that if 99.99% of women on Earth don't have to do that, then the point zero zero zero
Don't
one
have to do
percent are
what? Don't have to do what?
don't have to explain to someone why they're a woman, or don't have to like here's
But that
what
doesn't
my
make
problem
somebody
is.
not a woman, though. I don't understand what this even has to do with this situation.
So if somebody, let me ask you a question. If they know they're a woman, why do they need constant outside affirmation on that?
They don't need outside affirmation.
So what are we talking about?
See, why does somebody get surgery on their nose?
For either a medical reason or
is it only because people say that they should? No, it's because they feel that they want to get that surgery. The same applies to people that are trans. There's nothing different about them, right? It's because they themselves feel the incongruence, and that's why they want to change. Now, there could be societal pressures on them, but again, it's not the only reason why. And so your argument is bad there.
my argument's not bad. That if we're having this conversation about it, that therefore defines it as being different. It makes it different.
What different?
The fact that you're hosting a live to talk about it. If it weren't different, you would never host a live. You're not hosting a live saying
I'm hosting
biological women are women.
Discussions are important, right? I'm hosting this live because these discussions are important to have. People like you don't understand what transgender are. So I'm asking you what.
So let me ask you this question. Let me ask you the question. If I support calling someone transgender, calling them their preferred pronouns, saying that they're a woman, doing all of those things, but the two things that I do not agree with is that we should not be doing anything chemically, physically, or medically to children, nor should they participate.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. We're not talking about children. We're not talking about sports. We're talking about what is a woman, and do they fit in the category of woman?
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
So I am a trans woman, and I just wanted to point out that there are plenty of trans women on this app who do not believe that they are women, right? So, and even in my stance, I would say that those people are not women either. Hear me out. So I believe that a woman is an adult human with a gender identity that corresponds to the female sex. So that would be woman, right? And if a trans woman is not experiencing that and does not have that gender identity, then I'm not, under my view, they're not women either. And
Well,
I'm
yeah,
telling you,
they would be something else, another gender. They wouldn't be woman. Okay.
right? They think, and you're
Okay.
going to get them coming up
Right.
onto your panel. I
You
promise
can be non-binary, right? You can be all kinds of different genders other than woman. I agree with you there.
Yeah. And my point is that, like,
if you are a trans woman, then you're a woman.
I believe that too, but I'm telling you, you're going to get trans women that are coming up here that are not going to agree with you. And
Okay. Yeah.
so what I'm saying is, like, when there's, so I believe that cis women and trans women are just under the category of women, right? Just like decaffeinated coffee and caffeinated coffee are just both different types of coffee. So, like, if you have that gender identity that's insistent, persistent, and consistent and relates to the female sex, then you're a woman, right? If you're an adult human with that gender identity corresponding to the female sex, you're a woman.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying here. That's all I'm suggesting. I'm not saying that they must be women if you're trans. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I agree. And so that's because I host these debates myself, and I get these trans people coming up here saying, well, I'm a trans woman and I'm a man and all this. And I'm telling you, you're going to get those people coming in here. So just be prepared.
Yeah, thank you. Look, there's all kinds of debates about this that, what's a woman? What is this? But I'm just simply offering you, to me, the most accurate position that captures as much nuance as possible.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. So I was curious about why we should be vegan.
Good question. Because animals shouldn't be harmed or have their rights violated. They should be able to live freely and not be harmed by us if we don't have to.
I mean, yeah, like animals shouldn't be abused, but I was gonna use the circle of life as an example. We feed on animals as a source of protein, and they give back. Okay, they give back to us by re-eating them, if that makes sense.
How old are you, by the way?
It's in my bio.
All right, have a good day. Yeah, this isn't Lion King anymore, right? We don't have to partake in the circle of life. Like, we can just be vegan, and we don't have to be like Lion King. Plants give us protein. We don't have to eat animals for it. Remember, Simba. Like, we don't have to do that, right? We can just be vegan.
Mike, you good, man?
Hey, how old are you?
I'm 18 years old, Mike.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Mike?
Yeah, what do you got?
Why should we be vegan?
Because I don't want to harm innocent animals or abuse them or violate their rights.
Yeah, but don't you think, though, that we've always eaten animals, like, that's what the cavemen eat, we always eat animals. Don't you think as humans, we are humans, we should eat animals, they are...
Yeah, but we've also done lots of bad things in the past, or we've also had slavery for a long time. Does that mean we should do it because we did it forever in the past? No.
No, I suppose not. But do you think plants, like, where'd you get your protein from if you're vegan?
All plants have protein.
But if I'm remembering correctly, right, animal products contain 20 of the 20 essential amino acids. However, plant products, they only contain roughly, I think, 10 to 12 of the essential amino acids.
They contain all the amino acids.
I don't think all of them do. Like chickpeas, beans, they don't contain 20 of the 20, so
They do.
not as efficient protein synthesis, you see.
They do though, right? So all beans, things like that, they contain all 20 essential amino acids,
Do they?
or at least all the essential ones.
Do they though?
Yeah, name me an amino acid that plants don't have, that a bean doesn't have.
I couldn't tell you, man. I just don't think I have all 20, man. My source is AQA.
Well, they have all essential amino acids and not essential.
Do you not like the taste of meat, though?
Yeah, I used to love seafood, but the problem is that taste doesn't justify killing or slaughtering somebody.
Yeah, I don't agree with, gas chambers and stuff like that. But I think if you slaughter an animal in a halal manner, we can get into the God topic as well. Why do you really think God is imaginary?
There's no evidence for it.
What about Noah's Ark? What about Jesus' sandals, the cave? There is some evidence, man.
Are you trolling me? There is no evidence in Noah's Ark. It's not possible. There's no geological possibility for that to happen.
Man, I've seen visions. God appeared to me in dreams. Swear.
All right, have a good day.
No, shut up, Mike.
Hello.
Hey, how old are you?
I'm 21.
Cool.
How you doing?
Great.
Good. I just heard you talked about like neurobiology and neuropsychology, about trans women or women. As a biology student, was kind of interested. What evidence do you have for it? Because the idea that gender identity is hardwired in the brain is hypothesis, not a proven scientific fact.
Yeah, so here's a good study on this called Neurobiological Characteristics Associated with Gender Identity.
Okay.
Findings from neuroimaging studies in the Amsterdam cohort. What it shows is that there are brain phenotypes.
Okay.
So, for example, hypothalamus cells and sizes might be correlated between cis women and trans women. We also find that white matter and gray matter and cortical thickness are very similar and correlated between trans women and cis women, and they're distinct. They're typically distinct between cis men and trans women. So these are, very good evidences, and there's lots of studies about this. There's hundreds of studies that are constantly being done on this that show the same.
So neurological studies comparing male and female brains show general trends, but not definitive distinctions that can account for subjective identity. There's no conclusion, or maybe no conclusive brain scan or biological marker that can be reliably a fact that tells you someone's gender identity. In fact, many...
I'm not saying that you can look at a brain scan and go, oh, this person's trans. What I'm saying is that there are correlations. Now, sure, correlation does not equate to causation, but enough of it, enough correlation, and the evidence is building about this, and the evidence is quite strong that there are correlations, and that's why I do hold this position, because the evidence is growing and is very consistent.
Again, yeah, but at the same time, as a biology student, I'm just saying that all these studies that we learn that claim trans people have brain structures closer to their identified genders are inconclusive and show overlap, not replacement. The brain is plastic.
But what source is that from?
Just the sources that are scientific facts, not hypotheses, because you cannot just bring up 5, 6 studies.
Wait a minute. You made a claim that they are inconclusive.
Yeah.
That means that you've looked at, did you perform a meta-analysis on all this different studies?
I've looked at them, yeah. Those are,
No, Sam. Did you perform a meta-analysis on the data?
I've tried. I can't say I performed as a professional.
No.
Okay, so here you go.
You haven't. So you haven't. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I haven't. Let's say I haven't.
Let's say I take you seriously, Sam. You have to do that first. I suspect you're just being very uber skeptical because you don't want to listen to the science. You don't want to hear the science out. You just want to push your position.
No, that's not true. So
Okay, so then give me a scientific criticism, or frankly, go away.
okay, so the study that you just said, they used case control studies, and those case control studies are pretty inconsistent because it's like what larger sample sizes or different sample sizes or consistency of findings are different. In science, the validity of hypothesis is not solely determined by the number of supporting studies, but by the quality, consistency, and reproducibility of the evidence, which is not showing that those patterns are not there in your science because they got different controls, they got different methodological rigors, they got different sample sizes, and their study designs are completely different. Those are not RTCs, those are not cohort studies, nor meta-analyses.
So here's a meta-analysis. Brain sex differences related to gender identity development, genes, or hormones. This is a meta-analysis conducted from research from 1940s to 2019. And it demonstrates what I'm telling you, right?
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
You haven't given me a single actual scientific critique.
Yeah, but those are, again, considerations and limitations for it. Many of these studies involve small sample sizes, which can limit the generalizability of the findings. Replication with larger and more diverse cohorts is necessary to validate the results, which is not there. And also, if you look on those studies,
it is there. Again, here's a statement from the meta-analysis I presented. The aforementioned studies, although very heterogeneous, provide data supporting the biological basis of the psychosexual development.
Yeah, that's a hypothesis.
In particular, post-mortem. No, it's not a hypothesis. This is the conclusion of the data. In particular, post-mortem and in vivo neuroimaging studies strongly suggest the existence of sexual dimorphic brain, slight differences in brain anatomy functioning between two sexes. Now, it's less clear that it's less clear how the structures give rise to it, but it's clear that, and increasingly clear that there is correlations that can be made. And you just simply saying no isn't very convincing.
Okay, but again, you mentioned them. Those are correlations. Those are just correlations, not a causation.
When you have enough correlation built up, that's good evidence.
Do you have enough correlations?
Yes, the meta-analysis I just gave you looked at hundreds and hundreds of studies from the past century.
Well, okay, but there is no definitive scientific consensus that gender identity is neurologically hardwired.
We don't need a consensus, right? Consensus isn't required to understand that there's evidence for things.
Well, no. You're not arguing from biological nor neurobiological perspective. That's more philosophical. It's like gender theory.
Well, gender theory has a part to do with this, but again, there's still lots of science that backs what I'm saying up. I gave you multiple studies and a meta-analysis, and there's so many more, right? I don't think you've done your research on this.
I've done research on this, and I'm just saying from scientific perspective. Maybe if you talk about social perspectives and philosophical perspectives, it might make sense, but from the science, it doesn't make sense. But again, because those studies, although like maybe there's 100 studies or 200 studies, are not scientific conclusions.
Every study has a scientific conclusion to it. I don't know what you're even talking about now. What are you talking about?
What do you mean every study has a scientific conclusion?
Every scientific study I mentioned had a scientific conclusion with it and showed methodology. That's how science is done. And
okay, so
you just simply just go, no, I don't like it. That's not a scientific criticism.
Okay, so you expect people to affirm a person's belief about their gender? That's what you're trying to say? Like, okay, if trans women are women, you expect people to affirm a person's belief about their gender as they are?
Well, just like I believe I'm a man, yeah, you should call me a man. Just like if you're transgender, if you believe you're a woman, you should be called a woman. That's how this works. Now, we don't even need the science to understand that there could be a neurobiological basis behind this, but let alone the fact that we should respect other people. We should respect their gender, and that gender does have a societal aspect to it. But again, if you really wanted to, we could look at the science.
Interesting, because if you look at it from a different perspective, like for example, let's say psychological perspective, if somebody claims to be like anorexic and they think they're obese, we don't affirm that.
Well, that's because that's a different type of thing, right? We're not you're equivocating it with anorexia. That's not how gender works. Gender is not that kind of process. It's a neurobiological process. Has to do with the brain. Has nothing to do with
Well, the same way anorexia is a neurobiological process.
Well, no, it has to do with, if you're going to say that you're anorexic, or it has to do with, perhaps your body weight, other factors that are indicators of this. Sure, there's a neurobiological aspect, but that's not the defining characteristic. Whereas in the case of gender, it is the defining characteristic of it.
Okay, so why are we expecting?
It's still different from, an illness that debilitates you.
Okay, no, that's not true, because anorexia is strictly neurobiological and neuropsychological. If someone has anorexia and sees themselves as obese, we don't affirm that, because we're not just treating people without examining psychological causes. So why
it could be damaging? Because it could be damaging if we do affirm it, but it is not damaging if we affirm it with transgender people. In fact, it helps them. So even if, right, you're saying is correct, it would still be better to affirm gender, because it actually helps people.
Okay, but why then gender identity is treated as such unquestionable truth for you?
It's not a questionable truth.
So what is it then?
Wait, what do you say? It's a questionable what?
Unquestionable truth, because you're saying then you have to affirm that. Okay, so if
I'm not saying it's unquestionable, I'm saying that the evidence is strong for what I'm suggesting, and it's not strong for what others are suggesting.
So why are we expected to affirm a person's belief about their gender, but not beliefs in other identity disorders, for example, let's say?
Because, again, those other disorders, if we affirm them, it leads to damage. In the case
what
of
if affirming the gender leads to damage? What if somebody goes and gets blockers and then it damages them? Like,
wait, I'm sorry, what did you say?
What if affirming the gender is damaging them?
It's not. It doesn't.
How you know?
How you know so? Affirm their gender.
It's so objective. How you know so?
Well, we know because there are studies again where we find people who have their genders being affirmed, and they're better off for it. And sure, you could find cases where something bad happens, but the same applies to all medicine, right? There's always going to be cases where if you give somebody medicine, they could be hurt from it. So what you're trying to bring up is completely disingenuous. In the case of gender, when we affirm them, typically it leads to better outcomes, and that's why we should be affirming gender.
Okay, so if gender identity is innate, so why do many people detransition?
Because why do people get nose jobs? Because it helps them in their anxiety about their nose. The same with people that have to get to go through gender affirming surgeries. It helps them in their anxiety and their dysphoria about it.
So that's again neuropsychological. That's a dysphoria. That's a dysphoria.
Yeah, people have dysphoria about many things.
Yeah, sure.
Make them invalid. It doesn't make them invalid.
Yeah, I'm not saying that makes them invalid, but okay, I'm just saying that.
What is your concern? Why is this false?
That trans women are women?
Yeah.
Because so the classification of transgender women are women is it's a subject for like debates, and it's influenced by various perspectives, not only neuropsychological as you're claiming. Like, you cannot just bring up neuropsychological perspective and say that this is what it is, because it's including biological and social viewpoints as well.
I agree. All the above are related to gender, but why is this false? You're still not showing me why it's false.
Trans women are women is false because biologically individuals assigned male at birth typically possess XY chromosomes, while those assigned female have XX chromosomes.
Okay.
Then
now you're asserting that your definition, you're not really showing me why this would be a wrong way to use the term. You're just saying that your definition is yours. I understand that. The problem is that when we define women as based on their genitalia or based on their chromosomes, you miss out on so much nuance behind psychology, right? You just miss all that, right? Whereas in the case of my definition, whereas a woman is a gender identity which encapsulates female typical traits, that far better captures all the psychological nuance behind gender, and yours doesn't. And that's why mine, the new definition has far better utility.
So you believe that we have to change definitions?
We always should, to update based on new information. We always should be changing what we mean by things based on new data.
Okay. Well, if you base on new data, then that's causing different type of debates and different, for example.
Look, Sam, 50 years ago, people thought being GAY was an illness. Now we've updated our definition. It was once considered in the DSM-5 an illness, but we have changed since then. The same applies to trans people. There's nothing wrong with them in the case that there's an illness or something. It's just who they are. The DS4, yeah, right. So that's why we have to change our definitions over time as we learn about each other.
Okay. Yeah. So why should I be vegan then? Then tell me about it and I'll be gone. Because I see there's no point to argue with you, because literally you're not going to change your perspective about it. So why just wasting energy? Because I can't show you studies right now. I can't give you scientific references right now, and you're not going to be doing the same with me, because then it makes no sense for me to even argue.
Look, if we are we going to talk about the vegan thing now or what?
Yeah, now I just want to know why you're telling me how to live my life and tell me I should be vegan.
I'm not telling you how to live your life.
Well, that's literally what you said. You should be vegan.
Look, if you're going to be so uptight about somebody telling you what to do, well, you should be angry about yourself telling the animals to die for you and be forced into gas chambers for you. I think that what you're doing is hypocritical and not consistent, and that's why you should be vegan if you want to be consistent. So, do you like to abuse animals or do you not like to do it?
No, I don't like to abuse animals.
Then you should go vegan. It's that simple. There's no other. It's very simple.
I guess, okay, I don't have enough, as of right now, I don't have enough arguments. So I'm just going to leave, whatever you're saying makes absolutely no sense for most of the people. If you believe that.
Well, that doesn't make you right. It doesn't make you right.
Well, it doesn't make me right, but it's not making you right as well. As you've seen, some trans women, we had a trans woman who said that she's not feeling as a woman. So you're
no. She didn't say that. What she said was that there are trans women who don't agree with me, and that's fine.
Well, then your claim is false, because you said trans women are women.
That does not mean it's false just because people disagree with me. That doesn't make any sense. So, again, your criticisms are not working here. They're not very convincing. And I suspect that you have to do more research on these things.
I believe so.
Okay.
All right, Mike. Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, hello. I think there's a lot of confusion about the trans women are women argument. I don't think you're saying trans females are females, because that's more the actual scientific, but women and man is definitely like a gender thing opposed to a sex thing. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, because the science behind it is the actual statistics. It's how we pull our research. Obviously, we can't use trans women as getting a study for how the general female brain works, we could still use it as like a gender thing opposed to a sex thing. I feel like just not a lot of people understand that, and maybe shedding a little more light on that would open a lot of people's eyes, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you. Look, there's a lot of misunderstanding, and we all have the responsibility to do more research.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. I just want to say first that I love your videos. That's why I joined your live.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to ask you, why do you not believe in God?
I do not believe in God because number one, it's ill-defined. What do you mean by God? You ask 1,000 people, they get 1,000 different answers. I don't believe that there's any evidence for a God. I don't see any. And I think there are good arguments against a good God existing. For example, in the problem of evil or divine hiddenness, things like that.
Okay. I agree 100% that there is no true evidence for God that we can all look at and say, oh, this is God and this is his attributes. I agree. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. It just simply means that there could be a God, there could not be a God. Do you agree with that?
There could be unicorns. I'm looking for good reasons for God then.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not saying that because of what I said, then God is real. No, I'm just saying that.
Right, but I think it's
could be.
highly unlikely for there to be a God based on.
Okay. That's great. So, so you believe there is no God, but you agree with me that there could be.
I think.
Okay. Yeah, 100%. Okay. Yeah. So now about veganism. Why do you think we should be vegan?
Well, that's a question you have to ask yourself. Why are you not vegan? What makes you think it's justified to slaughter and abuse animals?
Well, I mean, now look, I'm not going to say that I don't believe in God. I actually believe in God, but so for me, it's morality is objective, and it's what God says is moral and not moral. But I'm not going to go there because, like you said, you don't believe in God, and I respect that. So, but like for me, there's an objective morality, but you don't believe in objective morality, right? You believe morality is subjective. It's simply what society decides is moral or not moral, and what we have developed through natural selection, what we think is moral or immoral. Is that
right.
your view?
I understand. You think you have objective morality, but I don't.
Yeah. So we don't have.
It's okay to slaughter animals; they don't have to die.
Okay. So you believe it's wrong to kill animals that don't have to die, but I think a lot of humans enjoy eating animals, and animals don't have the same consciousness that we humans have, and so I mean, I believe just for that reason, it doesn't make it.
Let me address those 2 points. You said that first, you enjoy it. Second, you don't have as much consciousness. Well, to address your first point, people enjoy all kinds of things. They enjoy grape. Does that mean that grape is okay because people enjoy it? No.
But that's 100%.
Okay, so then simply the enjoyment of things doesn't justify things. Number two, you suggested that they're not as conscious. Okay, I can agree there. But I think they meet a sufficient amount of consciousness. They are still conscious. And if you're going to say that they have very little consciousness, well, how about a baby who has very little consciousness? Would it be okay for you to kill a baby?
I mean, a baby, after a few years, we are 100% certain that he will achieve the same level of consciousness that we have.
Well,
but about your other...
we're not 100% sure. What if this baby is mentally disabled, such that they'll never have any more consciousness than, say, a pig? Would it be okay to kill that baby?
I'm not sure, you can correct me on that, but I believe that with our current technology, we can determine with a largely likelihood what if a baby can do.
What I'm saying is, what if there was a baby who was mentally disabled, such that they'll never have as much consciousness as me or you?
Okay.
Would it be okay to kill that baby?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay,
no, because
so then it's not consciousness that matters. It's not the enjoyment that justifies it. You're being contradictory.
I see what you're saying, but do you think that a baby that is not as conscious as us, like he is disabled, like you said, do you believe he is still? Do you believe he's just the same as an animal? Do you believe that a baby that's not conscious?
You can treat equalize. You can find a baby who has just as much consciousness as a pig. You can find this cross species.
Oh, okay. So just to understand, you believe that a baby who can't develop the same consciousness as us, who is a human baby, is at the same level of an animal?
In many cases, animals are more conscious than babies. I think pigs are more aware than 3-year-old children.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
I would
I
suggest
think
that animals are very conscious, and still that's why they still meet my threshold, and we should not harm them.
actually, I do agree that animals are conscious. Of course, they are conscious. I mean, for some reason, we see a great distinction between us and animals. And now it could be consciousness, but there are many other reasons for some reason. Do you believe that it's just because we see our species as superior? Do you believe that's the only reason we see ourselves above animals? In general, I know you don't, but
Yes,
I mean, most
there's a fundamental speciesist sentiment amongst the human species. We think that we're superior because we're a different species. I think that's a problem. I think that it's into racism, right? Oh, we're a different species. That's like, oh, we just look different, therefore we should harm others. I think that's a problem.
Exactly, that's what caused slavery as well. But yeah, and like I said, I mean, with objective, if you don't believe in objective morality, I was trying to see why you believe harming them is wrong. So you just think that because it feels wrong. Is that correct? Because it feels wrong to harm animals in any way.
Yeah, but you're not addressing the concern, the veganism. You're just saying, you don't have objective morality. Okay.
No. I'm not actually attacking you, but I'm just trying to understand it. I was trying to see if you are a utilitarianism. What is your belief about morality exactly? Because that's a big reason. Do you agree with me that that's a big reason for why we have our beliefs? I mean, for example, natural selection was what makes us at the end. Okay, so if we humans develop to be carnivores, omnivores, excuse me, if we develop to be omnivores through natural selection, it means that we are designed to eat humans. Eat animals. Eat animals.
But do you see what you did there? In fact, I think that you are right in the first statement you're saying. You by your statement, you said we're omnivores. It would mean that we should be able to eat people, but we don't eat people because there's a moral wrong there. And the same should apply to the animals. Even though we're omnivores, we don't have to consume meat at all.
Exactly. But that's my point.
Okay, so then the fact that we may be omnivores does not justify slaughtering animals.
We don't eat humans because 99.9% of the humans agree that we shouldn't eat the humans because we feel that it's wrong. That's the only reason. There's nothing. By the way,
that's not the only reason. I don't.
Why?
I don't think it's wrong to eat people because other people don't think it's wrong. I do because I think it's wrong.
Me too, by the way. But I mean, I can't say why I feel it's wrong.
Has very little to do with my opinion about my morality. I'm asking. I'm asking why are you not vegan, and you're suggesting you don't have objectivity, but that's irrelevant.
Yeah, because you don't agree with. I understand that, but I mean, look. I said that I think it is wrong to eat humans as well, of course, because I feel that it is wrong. But like, I can't give you a 100% reason. We can turn this into a God debate, of course, and discuss why I believe in my religion.
Let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you this. You're saying that God's morality is supreme, and we should listen to God, right?
I do. But look.
So
I'm not.
Hold on. What if God came down tomorrow and said, Ishan, you have to eat people? Would you do it?
I mean, at that point, I'm guessing I would. If I saw God, you mean, as the God that created the whole universe?
I came down and said, Hassan, you have to eat people and great people. Would you do it?
I mean, if God came here and said that to me, I don't really believe I have any other choice. Do you believe we have any other choice? If God, who created, who can
I think we have the choice to not follow what God says. I think raping somebody would be extremely absurd and extremely insane to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't just follow what God says. I do it. I think is right based on the things I see in my world. And that's why
we don't have the same definition of God, I believe. I agree with you, by the way. That's why I'm not even trying to debate if God exists or not. We agreed, both of us agreed, that God could exist or he could not exist. We cannot prove it. It's impossible to prove it. And so that's why I'm not trying
It's
to debate
irrelevant.
God.
I'm saying it's irrelevant whether or
Yeah.
not God exists. I still would not follow God. I would just follow
Okay.
the evidence. I would
If
follow the
wait.
fact that people are harmed, the fact that animals
So
are harmed for no reason.
okay, so you're saying that even if God were to be real, you wouldn't.
Yes, I would still not harm animals because I think it's wrong. I don't care about what God says.
Yeah,
Why should we care a rat's ass what God says? It's irrelevant.
Okay, but then once again, why is it wrong to eat animals if we develop to eat animals and it happens in nature? Do you believe it's wrong when a lion
We
eats?
use our empathy. We use our empathy faculties in our brains, which understand that harming others is bad, right? We don't like to harm others. We feel guilt, we feel fear, we feel anxiety. I would.
100%.
So that's why we don't do it. That's why we think it's wrong.
That's why I don't steal, by the way. I mean, that's why because
I agree. Right? We have those guilt faculties, so that's why we don't do these things.
But I mean, if someone, there are psychopaths or there are people who don't feel like it, or there are people who don't feel bad when they steal.
Yeah.
Can we say that what they are doing is wrong if our definition of wrong is what feels wrong?
Well, yes, I can say they're wrong. They might think they're right.
Me too.
I can say they're wrong still, no matter what they do.
Yeah, and why is our opinion at the end correct? It's because 99% of humans agree with us.
I'm not saying that my opinion is correct.
No. I mean, we
I'm
see
saying that I think it's correct. But that's not the same thing as saying it's a fact. I'm not suggesting that we have to be vegan and that it's objectively the case. I'm saying that we should be if you agree with my ethical framework.
Okay, now perfect. And so now I can ask you another question about this exact subject, which is, do you believe that eating animals is wrong at all times, or do you have exceptions? Like, I mean, I understand that the situation we have right now is absolutely unethical, and I agree with you. How the way they gas them, the way they have them in chambers and in tight spaces, I 100% agree with you that is wrong. Now, I still eat them, but I don't think that if I stopped eating them, I will do any change. And I believe that thinking system is flawed. But I want to hear your opinion. Do you think that eating animals is wrong in just this case or in all cases?
In the cases where you don't have to, it's wrong, right? If you have to survive in the wilderness and you have no other option, then that's it. That would be okay. But other than that, I don't see a reason why you should.
Okay, so even if we were to change the systems that we have right now for gassing them or whatever and made it more ethical and gave them more safety, you still think it's wrong?
Yeah, because you're taking away their rights to life.
Okay. I'm going to stop here, but I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Goodbye.
A fetus is not a random thing. It's in somebody's body, right? And that somebody's body takes a precedent in that case. A woman has the right to her own body, and she should not be forced to give birth for any reason. And that's a human right. You can debate the morality about abortion, but to me that's a far less worthy debate versus the rights aspect, the legality of it. And there are other arguments against abortion bans because they lead to more people dying. Hello?
Hello.
Hey.
Are you gonna ask for my age and stuff?
No, you sound like you're above 18. What do you got?
Oh, Okay. So I disagree that trans women are women, and I want you to clarify that premise. How do you consider them to be women?
Because they're women because they fit within the gender identity that aligns with female sex typical traits.
And what are those?
Psychological, behavioral traits, idiosyncrasies, right? Your femininity, things like that that are typical of females.
So are all women feminine?
No, not all women are feminine, and that's irrelevant because we don't have defining characteristics when we do in linguistics, right? We have degrees of belonging in categories. So we find typical traits, right? So when we define woman or man, we go based on what's typical, not what encapsulates all cases.
So that's not really how categories work. If you establish that you've got two categories, if you go off the premise that men exist and women exist, and that they exist as two separate categories, you have to have some distinctive quality that creates.
They do have distinctive qualities, but there is no set number or objective number of distinct qualities. Look,
Right.
do you, like, for example, do you think cars and trucks are distinct?
Yes. I don't see the relevance.
Okay, well, name me a defining characteristic of a truck that a car can't have.
I'm not a big car guy, to be honest with you. Can we stay on topic, please? So, in order,
This is directly on topic because you're invoking linguistics, and under prototype theory, there is no such thing as defining characteristics that objectively distinguishes a man between a woman or any word. It has to do with degrees of belonging in categories. That's how we categorize things. So in the case of a car and a truck, there is no one factor that distinguishes them two, which would make them separate categories objectively. We go based on typical traits, standout traits. That's all. And if you're going to say truck has a bed, well, cars have beds. Some cars have beds, like the El Camino, things like that. There is no single trait that only can be true for one particular category and not the other. It doesn't exist.
right? So, in order for that definition to work, you'd have to have some quality that applies to all women and excludes men. Otherwise, your
No,
definition doesn't
I
make any
just got
sense.
done explaining this to you, right? This
No,
is the
no,
common
you
talking
didn't.
point amongst gender critical folks. But the problem is that there is no single word in the dictionary that follows this type of thing. There is always going to be commonalities between different categories of things, especially in the case of cars and trucks
There's
and
gonna,
fruits.
there's
Like,
gonna, there's gonna be commonalities, but commonalities
right.
can't be the distinctive and defining trait. So,
Well, there
can you?
can be distinctions made based on typical traits, based on, and we can. That's why we can create these degrees of belonging into certain categories. There is no fine line. It's fuzzy, and that's the inherent nature of linguistics.
Yeah, so that's a bad definition. If you can't come up with a definition that
No.
encompasses,
What do you mean bad definition now? Because there is no such thing as bad or good definitions objectively.
yeah, so when I say adult human female, that applies to every single woman without exception.
Well, that's your definition, right?
Yeah,
That's your definition of woman.
yeah,
So who's right here, right? You don't. There is
yeah.
nobody
But
that's
no,
objectively right. The
but you
problem
see
with your
it.
definition. Hold on. The problem with saying that a woman is an adult human female is that it misses out on all the psychological and neurobiological nuance in trans folks. For example, the brain is what creates gender, right? Gender is what the brain's doing, the wiring of the brain. Under your definition, that doesn't account for any of that. And that's why the definition under current gender theory is far more useful in encapsulating all the nuance. And that's why we know that people that are transgender are born that way. They're born transgender. So in order for us to fit them within these categories, we have to update our definitions. And yours is outdated and doesn't allow for all the nuance. Mine does.
Yeah, so there's no functional difference in the brain structures of males and females, only structural differences. The trans brain myth has been debunked. If you want to cite a source that has conclusively proven some kind of neurological
Yeah,
basis?
so here's one. Neurobiological characteristics associated with gender identity. Findings from neuroimaging studies in the Amsterdam cohort of children and adolescents experiencing gender incongruence. It demonstrates that there are specific transgender neural signatures that were observed, suggesting a unique brain phenotype. Another study here's one called Sex versus Gender Associations of Brain Structure. And it shows that gender was correlated to the brain structure, not sex.
Yeah, so you're talking about structural differences, not functional differences.
Yes, structure gives rise to function.
No, it doesn't. What are you basing that on?
So when you have a structure of neurons, that gives rise to how those things function. And that functioning gives rise to gender identities.
No, that conflicts with the mainstream academic consensus on neurology.
There is no consensus about this.
Yeah, well, show me the study so I can look at what you're talking about.
It's called Neurobiological Characteristics Associated with Gender Identity. Findings from neuroimaging studies in the Amsterdam cohort of children and adolescents experiencing gender incongruence. But there's many more. There's hundreds of studies showing that there are correlations that we can make between trans brains, trans women brains, and cis women brains. And the evidence is growing for this. And to suggest that, it's all been debunked is absurd. That word is never used in science in the case of having nothing to offer except for words. When we say something's debunked, we mean that there's thorough and rigorous investigation that counters it. You have done none of that. You just simply asserted it's been debunked.
Yeah, so can you tell me the difference between a functional and structural difference?
A structure is a particular configuration of things. A function is how those configurations of things operate.
Yeah, I don't really think you know what you're talking about.
But that's not a very scientific criticism.
Right. So I'm going to drop now.
Okay. See, I hear this a lot. The gender critical folks will often say this. You can't distinguish between what a man and woman are, but that's missing the fact about linguistics. It's a fuzzy thing. And, when we debate these things, what's a lesbian, what's a gender, what's a woman, what's a man, these are very, very obscure concepts, and they require lots of thinking. And it's not as simple. And when you resort to simplicity about these words, you miss out on lots of the complexity. You miss out on the nuance. And you also can be inadvertently hateful and dismissing of a whole category of people that simply want to exist. Let me get some water because I'm thirsty from all the talking, but I'll be back to answer some questions. This isn't Saratoga. This is my filtered tap water that I just have the bottle here because I like glass bottles. I think it looks cool, right? All right. Why is it morally okay to eat plants and not animals? Because plants are not sentient. You went a vegan a month ago and you feel great. Great. I mean, I don't like when people say they feel good or they feel bad because what does that mean, right? To feel good, right? It's more of an ethical thing. And that's what should be the primary focus of veganism. If all animals were ethically sourced, would you still have the same stance? Okay, well, what do you mean by ethically sourced? How would you ethically source somebody and kill them and eat them? It doesn't make sense to me. I think that animals are not just objects, they're someone. They have thoughts and feelings and dreams and wants and desires, and we shouldn't restrict them from those things. How can you be sure God doesn't exist? Well, there are some good philosophical arguments against some versions of God. If you think God is good, how about the problem of evil? The evidential problem of evil, in which you look around at all the gratuitous suffering that goes on, and it makes it unlikely that a good God made all this. Or how about divine hiddenness, right? If God wants a relationship with us, why is he so hidden? Why does he not extend himself out to people who generally want a relationship with him? There are some good reasons to not believe that a God exists, depending on your definition of God. There's also omnipotence issues, right? What do you mean by omnipotence or omniscience? There's mathematical arguments against those things. There are some good reasons against God. Who is to say that eating animals is bad if there is no God? Well, I don't, frankly, need a God to make moral decisions about my life. I base my morality on, hey, how are my actions affecting others? And how can we better make a better world together? That's how I base my morality. And of course they're going to be subjective, but that's why we have to work together and talk about it. That's why we have these debates about what is good, what's bad. But if you think that whatever God says is good, well, now you're completely subject to whatever God says. God could come down and tell you anything, and you would just follow like a zombie. I think there's many issues with religious morality. Do we have actual people who want to come up and give an argument? Should I take one more? You just spoke. All right, let's see. I'll take one more guy.
Yeah, hello?
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, so trans women are women. I will start by stating my three premises that will come to this conclusion that trans women are not women. I would be presenting the three laws of logic on how transgenderism would contradict these three laws of logic. The premise one, transgenderism violates the law of identity. A is A, B cannot be A is not B. Transgenderism violates the law of non-contradiction. A cannot be both A and not A cannot be at the same time as B. Transgenderism violates the laws of excluding middle. A must be either A or not A, no middle ground. Do you have any contentions with any of these?
So all you did was made assertions. You haven't given an actual argument that follows, right? You're just saying they violate logic, but how?
No, I said my three debate premises. Do you have any?
Yeah, how does it violate the laws of logic to be transgender?
I literally just told you.
You just asserted they did. Right? You just asserted it does. But
okay, so then let's start by premise one. The law of identity. The law of identity states that a thing is itself and cannot be something else at the same time. Basically, A is A, B is B, C is C. Do you understand?
Yes, I know what the law of identity is. Now, what's the argument that it violates the law of identity to be transgender?
Yeah, so transgender ideology asserts that a biological male can become a woman simply by identifying as one. This contradicts the law of identity because it claims that a male is not a male and a woman is not a woman, and A can be B and B
Okay,
can
so
be A.
let me show you why this is confused.
How is it confused?
Because your definition of what a woman is not the one I'm using, and that's why your argument does not apply.
Oh,
And
so then you have to justify
so
why your definition is morally better than mine.
no.
Yes.
You can't demonstrate why something's morally better in terms of definitions. Morality doesn't apply to definitions. However, utility does. So I can show you why utility is stronger for the case of my definition. But in the case of your definition, it fails to encapsulate the neurological and biological and psychological nuance behind gender. If you suggest that an adult human female is what defines a woman, well, how about intersex? How about the fact that there are transgender people that exist that experience gender dysphoria? You're not encapsulating all the psychology behind gender. The fact that there's brain structures and brain sexes to gender identities. You miss out on all that by suggesting gender is simply the same thing as sex.
Yeah, when did I say that gender is the same thing as sex?
Well, what do you think a woman is?
I would say a woman is a adult human female. That's the definition
Right,
of
that's
human.
you're equivalent. Yeah, that's right. You're just saying that gender means sex, right? It's like a female sex means you're a woman. The problem is that that doesn't encapsulate all that nuance that you're missing. Like, for example, how do you account for the fact that there are brain sexes and that there are different phenotypes to brains that have to do with gender identity?
Yeah, where is this all inherited from?
What?
Yeah, where is this all inherited from?
What do you mean inherited from?
Do you know what inherited is?
Yes, but what do you mean? What is being inherited?
Yeah, so I would simply say that gender is inherited from sex.
No, gender
Yes.
is different from sex because gender has to do with
Obviously,
neurobiology.
gender is different from sex, but it's inherited from sex. Where does gender come
No,
from?
gender comes from the brain.
Where does yeah?
The brain. I'm trying to explain this to you.
Is
It comes from the
the
brain.
brain not a biological function that controls sex?
No, the brain
It
doesn't
is.
control your sex. The brain doesn't control your genitalia or your chromosomes. That's what better defines sex. So
Okay,
that's
so what is a biological human genome? What is a genome?
it's just DNA. Your
Yeah,
genes.
DNA coding. So is there transgenderism ideology and like
Okay,
embedded
stop saying it's
into
an ideology. It's not an
yeah, it is.
ideology.
Do you
It's
know
a
what
biological fact.
biology is? Well, biological fact. So can you tell me one thing about transgenderism that is biological?
The brain. It has
The
to do with
brain.
your hypothalamus. Yes.
Yeah. So let me throw some hypothetical at you. So people who go hunting, they would show similar brain waves or like brain functions that are similar to that are like a serial smarterer. Are they serial smarterers? But they have like a loving family. They have two kids. Yeah. So are they a smarterer?
I'm sorry. I didn't. What are you saying?
They hunt deer, and their brain waves, their brain function is the same or
Guys,
similar.
show us. That was a mistake. I should have never brought that guest up. Okay. Look, guys, there's so much resistance towards these topics, right? Think of how much resistance there is, how much motivation there is to just say, I'm wrong. Mike is bad. Mike is wrong. And I understand that. But just listen to what I'm telling you for a second and do your own research. That's all I ask of you, right? That's all I ask of you. I'm not saying I'm the best, I'm the right, I'm Mr. Right here. I'm saying you should do your research, and there's more complexity to these issues than just, oh, I don't like it, right? These are very important issues. All three of these are very important to understand. Host forgot people can be wrong, which he is. Okay, what's your argument for that, right? Go ahead. I'll be happy to be wrong, but show me where. Don't just tell me, show me where I'm wrong. Women are women. I agree. But when you say woman or woman, you're implying that woman means sex, right? Female sex. And the problem is in that definition is that it misses out on all the new information we've learned about gender. You know, and that's why there is an entire field about this, studying gender and gender theory, that you have to understand. If you don't understand, you're going to be lost and not understand anything about this issue. We're waiting on your vegan cookbook. Oh man, yesterday was a great day for me. I had so many great foods. Why are people always debating us trans women, turning our existence into politics? So that's a very, very good concern. Why are we debating this as if it's something political? The reason why I think this is very important to talk about is because if we don't, that void leaves room for people to be hateful and to be deliberately ignorant about the issue. When there's no counter, when there's nobody countering or fighting back against the misinformation, that leaves a void that makes the situation much worse. So that's why I don't really care if you think it's political. I'm not going to talk about this because talking about it always helps people understand. And people are using this issue to exploit their political agendas. Veganism is not masculine or effeminate or anything. It's just a philosophy. It's just a philosophy. You shouldn't harm others. You shouldn't take away their rights. I mean, it's that simple. And, most people agree. I mean, most of us go online and we look at cat videos where people are harming cats. And we go, oh, that's terrible. We should not harm cats. We should protect them. But why should we not protect pigs or cows? What's the difference? Oh, well, they're farm animals. But why? Why do we call them farm animals but not cats? What's the difference? Both should be equally considered in our morality. We shouldn't just discriminate based on the species. Both cows and cats are smart, conscious, able to live and want to be happy just like you and me. They shouldn't be harmed or exploited. It's that simple, It's just a cow. Well, I can say you're just a person, right? Anybody can devalue you. The problem is that you don't typically think this way. When you think of a dog, you don't just go, oh, just a dog, we should harm it. No, you think that we should protect a dog. And although society says that cows are for food, why? We should challenge that belief. We should challenge the belief that cows are just food. We should challenge these norms. And that's why I'm vegan. 2 words, B12. Well, B12 is found in all kinds of plants. Mushrooms have B12, quinoa, some seaweeds. There's also fortified foods with B12, nutritional yeast, things like that. But B12 is not exclusive to meat. In fact, even meat is low in B12 because B12 comes from bacteria in the soil. And for millennia, people have been consuming dirty water and dirty dirt. And that has been a good source of B12 for them. But today we sanitize these things. We don't eat dirt anymore. We don't eat dirty water. And hence we need to supplement or get fortified sources. Big deal. Getting B12 from plants or supplements is worth it. It's way worth it because the animals that you're killing don't deserve to die or be exploited. Just like a dog doesn't, right? Imagine if I had a dog farm where I farm dogs because, oh, I need to get B12. You would never suggest that's okay. Imagine somebody had a dog farm to get B12 from the dog meat. You would say that's outrageous. That's terrible. Well, then why is it bad for that, but okay for the cow? There's a contradiction. There's a hypocrisy. There should be a Mike farm. I understand that people don't like me. I understand. And that's okay. Trust me, I've gotten tons of hate. I've gotten my fair share of hate. It's a bit late. I'll take a few more questions. Did I watch the show Severance? I have not. So this is not Saratoga. I mean, it was before, but now it's tap water. I just like glass. I just like the glass bottle. I just wanted to buy it because I like the way it looks. I like the color. But yeah, this is tap water. No, I actually never heard of Ashton Hall, whatever. I never heard of that guy before. Who learned something from these lives? Who learned today? Who learned something? Who thought this was a very insightful live? Good. That's all I want. That's all I ask for you guys to do. I don't care if you think I'm wrong. I might be wrong. I might be right. I want you guys to do your own research and learn and really dive into these topics because they help us. Every time you learn something, it helps you. And that's all I ask. I don't care if I'm right or wrong in terms of how I'm displayed. I want you guys to learn. I saw you at the gym. I don't go to public gyms. I mean, I have my own gym at my own place. I like your hair. Thank you. It's all natural. It's all mine. Show the biceps. Do you think TikTok will be extended? Probably. I hope so. I don't want TikTok to go away. I think it's a great app. I think it's a bit too restricted, but too moderated. But I think it's a good app. I think it's better than any other app out there. When I moved to YouTube, yeah, I have a YouTube. Almost at 7,000 followers or subscribers. So go follow my YouTube in case TikTok does go away. Well, look, I don't want to debate forever. I mean, debating is so exhausting. I can't do it for that long. But, I could still debate on YouTube here and there. I rather just make videos, long form videos. I think that's what I love to do the most. I love to make videos like that. But TikTok lives are great. I love TikTok lives. They're so cool. Got any big debates coming up? No. I mean, I kind of focus on other things too in my life, not just TikTok, although it is a good part of my life. Do you still send out your signed book? Yeah, I just have to order some more of my books from Amazon. And then I can send you out a signed copy. But if you really want one, let me know. I mean, I'd have to order some. Have you noticed any health effects from being vegan? No, I'm healthier than ever before because I eat the right way. I don't eat garbage. I don't eat junk. I'm very healthy and way healthier than ever before. I do have a science degree. I have a geoscience degree. Do you ever drink alcohol? I rarely do. Do you always eat healthy or do you ever have cheat meals? Sometimes I do have cheat meals. Sometimes. But oftentimes eating healthy is actually cheaper, right? Like sometimes eating healthier is actually cheaper. So I love making salads. I love making oatmeal. Like they're so cheap and they're so convenient and easy to make. Yeah. It's very easy to just not consume animals. I like to make a nice lentil stew. I like to make lentils. I put sweet potatoes in there, where steamed. I like to make steamed mushrooms. Put them in there. I'll put some, like maybe spinach or some kind of greens in there, and then lentil soup with some veggie broth, and then it's a nice stew. Is veganism hard on your wallet? No, it's very, very, very. In fact, I'm saving money because rices, beans, right, like potatoes are some of the cheapest foods. You'll notice that meat and dairy and eggs, especially, are very expensive to now, especially. Thoughts on the current supernova? It's not a supernova, I don't think, but I haven't seen too much about it to tell you more than that. If it doesn't happen within the next few weeks, it's probably not going to happen for another few months because of the way the star cycle works. Stars are incredible things. They're not just like these little lights, like they're real complicated objects, right? There's pressures and, luminosities and temperatures, and there's different layers and there's different atmospheres. There's all kinds of like complexities to stars. And yeah. What is your opinion on military? What do you mean? I don't think we should be going to any wars. I think we should just mind our own damn business. I don't think we should be. I think we should reduce our military expenditure, and we should not be spending $1 trillion on goddamn airplanes that we don't need. But I understand that protecting the country is important, but think of how much money could be spent elsewhere way better, right? Like imagine if we just had affordable healthcare, like, better schools, right? Like there's so many things that we can use that money for far better than just building more planes. But it's never going to happen. Like, I mean, we've never decreased our military budget in like decades. Like, it's been so long. So, can we get more science lives? Yeah, we should. We should do more science lives. Maybe tomorrow. We need to focus on the climate crisis. Yeah. Now, a lot of people just feel so like lost. They feel like they don't want to do. They feel like they're so powerless in the fight against climate change, right? You know, what am I going to do to stop it? And that often makes us so turned off from discussing climate change. But I can tell you that something you can do very simply to help climate change is to go vegan. Literally, that's one of the best things you can do. Vegans have way lower carbon footprints. They use less land. Like, land's important. Like, look at the Amazon, right? Most of the Amazon is being destroyed for cattle ranching, for cows. If we stopped doing that, we would have way more trees that can help stop climate change. And then water. We would we would have more water, more fresh water by being vegan. And there's so many benefits to the environment for going vegan. And it's something we can all do right now that could tremendously help. But also another positive thing about climate change is that we're actually doing a lot right now. We're actually building more solar, more nuclear, more hydrothermal, geothermal, more wind, and those are being way more prevalent. So there's a good, yeah, exactly, Keith. Acidification, right? So the oceans absorb lots of that CO2 that you spit out, and what happens is that acidification makes the water acidified, and it prevents a lot of shellfish from building shells, so a lot of sea life dies. It also prevents a lot of oxygen from existing in these types of, swampy areas, these rivers, these lakes, because all those bacteria eat up that stuff, and then they build up and they block that oxygen from helping the fish survive. So we see lots of fish. If you notice, we see lots of fish dying, like thousands at a time, right? And it's because of eutrophication. We're essentially blocking a lot of the nutrients, or essentially blocking a lot of the fish from getting oxygen, because we're using so much fertilizer. It's running off into lakes and streams, right? Because we're using lots of it for animals, animal farming, and then it's just making the rivers so gross. So your consumption of animals goes a long way in helping the planet and destroying the planet, right? And you being vegan is way beneficial. But again, we never talk about this because people just don't want to be vegan, right? Nobody ever talks about it because people don't want to change, just like the trans issue, just like all these issues, we just don't talk about them because we don't want to, right? We just like, oh, forget it. I'd rather be what I want to do, what I want to do. But if you do just listen to what these issues are saying, it'll help you a lot. It'll help the world a lot. Quit monologuing. Well, I'm sorry, but I can do what I want. It's my life, number one. Number two, it's okay to monologue sometimes. It's okay. I'm not a bad person because I'm monologuing. Number three, what I'm saying is actually very true and important. Awesome, Kelly. Good job. Just had a vegan meal. You guys are funny. When did I become vegan? About 8 years ago. Or 7 years ago. 2018. I first stumbled upon like some of these slaughter videos. I saw a cow who was being slaughtered and their legs were dangling, kicking while they were being slaughtered. And I was like, holy crap, what am I doing? And people don't realize this, but a significant portion of animals in these death chambers are actually conscious while they're being killed. Because a lot of the systems that people use don't work after a while. Sometimes the system is not effective or efficient, and a lot of animals are still conscious while they're being slaughtered. And that's why I stopped. I was like, I can't do this. I can't contribute to this. You know, and I had dogs at the time, and I looked into their eyes, and I was like, holy moly. If I see my dog as family, how am I being such a damn hypocrite in suggesting that the cow is just to be killed? But this dog here is family to me. I couldn't erase the hypocrisy except to change. You have ARFID. Okay, well, I would go to challenge22.com where you can talk to a dietitian for free or a nutritionist for free. And they can tell you about your condition and how to be vegan. It's easier than ever before to go vegan. Like, you have so many resources now. You can talk to other vegans and they'll help you out. challenge22.com. Well, these are dietitians. These are professional dietitians. There's a difference between dietitian and nutritionist. A dietitian better understands those kinds of conditions, right? A nutritionist doesn't really care. What do you eat instead of meat? Beans, pasta, everything except for meat. Like, literally everything. Like, nuts, beans, you know, everything. There's even vegan pizza. There's vegan chicken nuggets. Like, I was having vegan chicken nuggets the other night. How's my gas? It's actually funny because people get gas a lot because they don't have enough fiber in their body. They don't get enough fiber in their diet. And to build your microbiome in your gut has bacteria in it, like millions and billions of bacteria that feed on that fiber. And if you don't feed them fiber, the bad bacteria can grow, which produces all that gas. And that's why you don't want you want to get more fiber in your diet to help your digestive system. In fact, colon cancers are on the rise in young people because people aren't getting fiber in their diet. Like, kids now, all they do is, you know, eat those candies and bars and, you know, meat products. They're not getting any damn fiber. And that's contributing to colon cancers. So that's why vegans have way lower rates of colon cancers. Vegans have lower rates of heart disease and cancers and arthritis and all kinds of diseases like that. Yeah, I haven't been constipated like in years because I get fiber every day. I always get my fruits in, my veggies in, and I'm very healthy for it. I'm very happy. Also, drink water a lot and make sure it's filtered water. You don't want to drink all those plastics. But yeah, some things you can do that make you really healthy and ethical. Is vegan meat fire? It's actually pretty good. Yeah, Impossible. I love Impossible burgers. I love Beyond Meat. They're good. This is not actually Saratoga water. I mean, this was before, but now this is tap water. I just got the bottle because it's glass and I like it. Like it looks cool, you know. But I got a filter for my tap water. There you can buy some filters online that are NSF rated, so they filter out microplastics and chemicals, right? Lead, things like that. So I got that filtered water. So now I don't have to use plastic, and I'm drinking healthy. I mean, you can't erase all the chemicals, right? There's gonna be something in here that's probably bad, but way reduced. Unfortunately, because there's so much plastic in our world today, you can't escape it. There's plastic in all of our bodies, microplastics. Every single drop of water in the world has microplastics in it to some degree. And all we can do is kind of filter it out. We can't stop it. Because that's just how much damn plastic we're contributing to the world. So, yeah, the best thing to do is to go vegan and get filtered water from your tap. Do not like protein. No, I have plenty of protein. All plants have protein. Every fish people eat has plastic. Yeah, fish. Fish is the worst. Because, like the shellfish, you know, like that, they eat the plastic like crazy. You know, it's in the water and they're just consuming it, they're digesting it, they're breathing it. And fish is the worst thing you can eat for plastics. Even like fish, you know, that you fish in a lake or something, right? Like your local lake or something. Even those fish are full of microplastics. And you should really be filtering your water and not eating fish. No, my source isn't. Trust me, bro. There are many sources that show microplastics exist in fish. You want one? Here's one. Microplastics in fish and fishery products and risks for human health. A review. This is in the National Library of Medicine in the International Journal of Environmental Resources. And it demonstrates that microplastics have been detected in all aquatic compartments. Hence, they are currently considered an omnipresent contaminant that constitutes a potential risk both for aquatic organisms that ingest them and for humans through the consumption of fishery products. There you go. There's one study that demonstrates it. There are many, many more. Credit card a month or a day? I think it's a month. Every month you ingest like a credit card worth of plastic, and a lot of it goes into your brain. So this is emerging, information. This is new information to us because we haven't been able to detect these things for a long time, but now we can, right? So just like every other topic that we talk about, we have to update our understanding of things as we learn more. See? And yeah. How much plastic does a average person ingest per month? Wow. Okay. One report showed that on average, humans ingest 5 grams of microplastic every week, which is about the size of a credit card. Every week. Every week you're consuming a credit card of plastic. That's crazy. Filter your water, guys. Get glass, filter your water, and don't buy plastic bottles. That shit's so bad. Someone said I only eat debit cards. That was funny. But Mike, I only eat debit cards. Is it possible to avoid microplastics? No, it's not possible to avoid them at this point. It's in the air. It's in your lungs. It's in your brain. It's in your clothes, right? There's microplastics right here in my clothes, right? You can't escape them. But what you can do is decrease the most damaging sources, right? Seafood, plastic bottles. Those are some of the worst because plastic bottles leach all that microplastic into the water. Those are the worst sources. So you get rid of your plastic bottles and seafood, you're going to be better. But also meat also has a lot of microplastics because the water that they use to feed the crops and to feed the animals that you drink, that's not filtered. That's just tap water that probably has a lot of shit in it. And I'm just saying, like, red meat is not good. Yeah, even toothpaste has microplastics. There's no avoiding it, but what you can do is reduce it the best you can, right? That's all. I'm not here to be like, oh, you have to be perfect. You have to. No, I'm just saying do the best you can. I was only drinking water for years, but got hooked on aluminum can seltzer. Yeah, I don't like seltzer. I just never liked it. I'd rather drink just regular water. You know. I never was into soda, but I was into tea. I loved drinking tea, like Snapple and stuff like that. That shit is so bad for you. Yeah, Fiji water. I used to drink that all the time. You guys, you always saw me with Fiji, but I learned that I was doing what I was doing was so bad, and I changed. Just a couple weeks ago, I started drinking glass bottles, and then I got a filter. Because I don't want to contribute to all the glass and all that shit anymore. So yeah, I was wrong. Even me can be very bad and very wrong. Thoughts on where all the trash we produce goes? all the trash you produce doesn't vanish. It stays on the earth, right? So every single thing you've ever had in your life, right? Think of when you were a kid, your little Game Boy, your toilet paper from your baby, or your diapers. They still are on the earth. They didn't vanish. They're still in the earth. They're degraded a little bit more, right? but they go to landfills and they just sit there for years and years. Some of it makes it into the oceans. Rain and river runoff and things like that goes into the oceans. A lot of plastics in the oceans. A lot of garbage is in the oceans. And humans are filthy, man. We're so filthy, So that's why reducing your waste, reducing your plastic, being vegan, these are very important. Not only do they make the world better, but they make your life better, right? But a lot of people just say, no, I don't want to be vegan. B12, right? It's like they're just saying that because they want to be contrarian. They just want to say, no, I don't want to change. But look, I understand that. Nobody wants to change. But understanding the situation helps you change. When you learn about it, right, when you're more aware of it, you're going to be more willing to change and better off for it. Do I believe in aliens? I don't believe that they necessarily exist. They could. Given the fact that there's so many possible worlds, yes. I think that it's likely that they do exist, but I don't know for sure. Man, my back. Don't grow old, people. I miss the days when I didn't have any back pain. It didn't matter what side of the bed I woke up on. I'd just be fine, just wake up. But now I'm in my 30s. It's getting to me. Yeah, I'm 30. Do you think we're the same age and my back is fine? Well, lucky you. Well, my back is fine too. I'm just saying that sometimes I wake up, my pillow, sometimes I wake up on the wrong side and my back hurts for a little bit. If I'm on my phone too much, looking down, it can hurt it a little bit, strain it a little bit. That's all. I'm not saying that I'm 95. I'm just saying. Canned soda actually has a thin liner of plastic protecting contents from the metal, but recyclable. Yeah, I don't know what that was supposed to, what your point was, but yeah, there's people think it's just metal in cans, but there's actually plastic in the can that also can leach into your soda. So there's literally nothing, there's no escaping plastic. The best thing to do is reduce it, right? To minimize plastic use. That's why filter your tap water, that's the best. Glass is good, but glass is, you have to recycle it. You should be recycling it. It's also not cheap, right? So the best thing to do is by far get a water filter for your house and drink your tap water. Tap water is good. You just got to filter it depending on where you are. Some places are worse than others in terms of the tap water. My area is pretty good, but I still want to filter a little bit. Beer is the safest option. Yeah. Are you strong? Yeah, I'm pretty strong. I do push-ups a lot. You can ask your mom. She knows I'm strong. How about the plastics in the water filters? No concerns? Again, there's no such thing as a pure metal filter. It doesn't exist, right? You can't escape plastic. You just can't. There's plastic in my clothing. There's plastic in my air I'm breathing right now. But again, you want to reduce as much as possible, and getting a water filter does that. Because you just go to your tap water, you put a filter on it, and that lasts for months and months and months without having to get any plastic. It's far better, or glass, right? That's far better than getting bottled water. Bottled water stinks. Drink out of glass cups. Well, you can drink out of glass or drink out of stainless steel, right? Like those stainless steel things. Those are good too. But yeah, I would avoid plastic as much as possible. Do you think alien civilizations are separated more so by time than they are by space? I don't know. But I would say that the time thing is a way harder thing to count to traverse than space. Right? Time is going to be the bigger barrier. That's why I drink straight rainwater. Rainwater actually has microplastics in it too. Again, there's no you can't escape it, right? There's microplastics in air outside. There's microplastics in the damn rainwater. It's everywhere. This shirt, I think it's polyester. But yeah, I'm not concerned about the clothing. I mean, I'm not really that concerned about the plastic in my clothes, right? The biggest contributors is the water you're drinking and seafood. Those two things are the biggest plastic sources. You want to get rid of those things, okay? Plastic bottles and seafood. Get rid of those things, you're going to be great. Fluoride is actually not bad for you. It's actually good for your teeth, especially. Fluoride is not a bad thing. You want fluoride. And the idea that people are so against it now is so crazy. It's like, there's no evidence that it's bad for you. It's actually healthy for you. Do you think your average refrigerator filter helps? Yeah, of course it helps. But typically those refrigerator filters are not rated to the highest standards. My water filter is rated to NSF 53, which gets rid of PFAS, gets rid of microplastics, it gets rid of lead. Your refrigerator filter might not be rated to that same standard. It might be rated to NSF 42, which only gets rid of about a few different contaminants, maybe some lead, and maybe some chlorine. But you want to get the better filter if you're drinking tap. And if you actually go to ewgdatabase.com, you can find out your tap water, how healthy it is. There are some areas of tap water where you have lots of PFAS in it. These are the forever chemicals that last in your body for years. EWGdatabase.com. EWG tap water database. Just type that in Google and you'll find it. You just type in your zip code. Hold on, I gotta mute this guy. Just type in your zip code and you can find the water, how healthy it is for you. Thoughts on reverse osmosis? Yeah, I think reverse osmosis is the best way to actually filter your water. But you have to make sure that you're re-adding nutrients to it, minerals. Because reverse osmosis gets rid of everything. even all the healthy minerals, right? So you want to add in some good healthy minerals to your water. That's if you care about your health, right? If you don't care about your health, it doesn't matter. What are some health effects of eating microplastics? We don't really know all the effects of it. But let's see. Health effects of microplastics. Okay, where do we begin? Neurological disorders. Microplastics can induce neurotoxicity. They can also disrupt endocrine chemicals, which can interfere with hormone production, hormone function. They can increase inflammation. They can affect the immune system. They can affect the stomach, the heart. Yeah, not good. Yes, there's some evidence that it may lead to infertility, yes. Your area has 114 contaminants. Yeah, but make sure that, so like my area, has 11 total, right? But some of them are not exceeding the guidelines, right? Some of them are within the guidelines, so they're not going to be too unhealthy for you. You want to go down to the page where it says exceeds the guidelines. Those are things you should be concerned about. And, you know, that's why you want to get a good filter that gets rid of those. Your area has 287 contaminants? That's a lot. Jesus, that's a lot. See, my water, because I'm in Florida, it comes from an aquifer underground. They actually take the water from an aquifer that already is filtered, and they bring it up. Now, they just add chlorine to mine. And in the process of adding chlorine, it kills bacteria, but it also interacts with other chemicals in the water that makes for contaminants to happen. So that's what my filter is getting. That's why the only really contaminants I have are those chemicals. And some might be worse because some of them, a lot of others get that from groundwater, lakes and rivers. That's the worst because that shit is really contaminated with all kinds of shit, right? So I'm lucky to be in Florida where we have an aquifer right below us. There's literally right below my feet is an aquifer full of water. But in places like California or the Midwest or the Northeast where they're getting it from lakes and rivers, that shit can be very nasty. Why do they add chlorine? Oh, to kill bacteria, right? Because there could be bacteria in your water and all kinds of organic stuff that you don't want. Yours has 7. That's pretty good. 7 is not bad. Yeah, guys, our water is fucked up from what we're doing. Doesn't saltwater intrusion happen in Florida? Yes. So there is some bromide in my water. Yes. It's not that much of a concern to the health. But yes, it is concerning that saltwater intrusion is happening. But we're pretty safe. It's going to take centuries for us to be that concerned. But yeah, bromide can be in the water. You have a well next to your house. Yeah, wells could be good. Just make sure that you're getting that filtered, okay? Because there could be all kinds of bacteria down there. You know, you need a filter. You definitely need a filter if you're getting well water. How do whales drink water? What's the site again? It's called EWG Tap Water Data. Just type in ewg.org tap water database and then just type in your zip code. Yeah, whales have kidneys that filter out the salt. Yeah, they absorb their own water. They don't have to drink it like we do. Why doesn't God give us fresh water? Unfortunately, he doesn't exist. Yours says 0 contaminants. Really? Wow, where are you? 0 contaminants. Never heard that before. Don't mammals die if they drink salt water? Yes, if they're drinking salt water from the ocean, yeah, that's not good. But a little bit of salt in your water, or sodium or bromide, isn't a problem. Northeast Washington. I'm assuming that that's glacial water, perhaps. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's good, man. 0 contaminants. It's very good. Very good. New York City have the worst. I don't know. I know that New Jersey has bad water for sure. Like there's lots of radium and, oh man, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, there's whales also eat food, and there's water in their food, by the way. You know, even when you eat your food, there's water in your food. So you get water that way too. But we don't get enough of that. Whales don't have to drink water like we do because their bodies can make it. I have a question. It's about veganism. Isn't there a lot of nutrients you can miss out on? No, there's no nutrient that you have to get from meat or dairy. Iron, calcium, all those things are contained in beans and veggies. Yeah, there's a lot of healthy, nutrient dense foods. Your city has 58 times over the guideline for radium. Wow. Yeah, get a filter, guys. You know, get a filter. Don't drink plastic. Better for the environment, better for yourself and your family. By the way, a great way to get rid of microplastics, eat fiber. Microplastics do go away from your body. They don't stay there forever. Now, the faster way to get rid of microplastics is to eat things like oatmeal and fibrous foods. That can actually do better. It can actually take away fiber from your body, take away plastic from your body. So being vegan is also healthier in that regard. It's actually reducing your exposure to microplastics, and it's helping you take away microplastics. Why don't you care about the bees that die for your food? Well, I do care about bees, but the problem is that most bees that die in these farms are not dying because of vegans. They're dying because of parasites. They're dying because of bugs and parasites that infest them and eat them. They kill them. And that's just the nature of how bees operate. I'm against exploiting bees to make honey. I don't need honey, right? Now, there are some crops that have to be pollinated by bees. Okay. But, you know, the bees that perhaps happen to make those or pollinate those things, we're not forcing them to pollinate those things, right? We're not forcing them to do that. We're not forcing them to do anything. So I don't see a problem with the bees as a vegan. I don't see the problem. If you're that concerned about the bees, then go vegan anyway, because meat and dairy consumption kills way more crops. More monocrop culturing, more monocrop cultures. What you have is more bees. More bees have to pollinate those things, and then more bees are going to die. So if you're that concerned, go vegan. Again, people don't realize that the benefits of veganism extend further than like the ethics. They extend to the environment, health, social, society. Do you watch your step to avoid stepping on ants? No, I don't watch my steps. That would be impractical for me to do so. That would be absurd. That's not what veganism means. It doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you're an angel. It doesn't mean you watch every step you take for an ant. It means you do your best. That's it. It means do the best you can to reduce your harm, to reduce your exploitation to others. And that's it. It's not, it's not like this crazy over-the-top philosophy. What are the social benefits from veganism? Well, there are some studies that show that people often view women, for example, that view animals as just objects also objectify women. So when people better understand the animals, right, when they understand that they are conscious aware, when they understand that their value is higher than they perceive it, that also translates to societal benefits, because those same people will better understand women and other people who are disenfranchised in our society. So again, helping people be vegan also helps us become kinder. Because it takes a bit of thinking to be vegan. It takes a little bit of effort, intellectually speaking, to make connections between animals, people, right? It takes a little bit of effort. And when you make that effort, it also spills over to other aspects of your life. Yeah.